I can understand Naruto, but why the other two, Anko? Hiruzen asked. Truthfully, the man knew his son wanted to continue the tradition of forming the Inashikacho team with the newest generation, and Kurenai had a vested interest in Hiyashi's daughter. Simple. I know the Gaki in and out, and still have tons to teach him for one. 2. Inoichi's brat surprised me the last time I saw her, and she's got guts. Her natural flexibility and her clan's techniques and background make her the perfect candidate to learn about interrogation. You plan to teach a child interrogation? Erika asked in disbelief. The moment they put on the headband is the moment they stop being kids. Umino, Anko scowled, and the man flinched. Besides, in the past the Yamanaka began teaching kids the basics of interrogation should they ever meet someone capable of resisting their mind techniques. And the Hyuga? Hiruzen asked. Easy. Her eyes allow for long-range scouting, and her taijutsu allows her to disable her opponents when she gets in close, making them easier for capture. Anko reasoned. Of course, she's gonna need some work done, but having her around her oblivious crush could help. Kurenai frowned at the words, but couldn't help but agree with her friend's assessment. Hinata had confidence issues, partially in fault to her father and her traumatic childhood. Having lost her mother, who had been pregnant with what would have been her third sibling, along with believing she had been the cause of her uncle's death due to her failed kidnapping from the Kumo ambassador years ago. So, you're trying to create a tracking, capture, and interrogation team, Kakashi assessed. In a manner of speaking, Anko acknowledged. Naruto has incredible levels of chakra, a lot of piss and vinegar in him, and enormous endurance. The kid's gonna be the muscle of the three if and when things get hairy. When you include the tactics he'll be able to employ with that mud of his, they can basically beat the hell out of their opponents and wear them down. Otto's a ninkin, so he's got keen senses. He's young, but he'll be able to detect things we may miss and shouldn't be underestimated. With her eyes, Hinata's the scout, and the one who immobilizes them with her love taps. Kurenai smirked lightly. The woman would have loved to see the Hyuga clan's reaction to Anko calling their famed taijutsu, the gentle fist, as love taps. Academy record says she's also in the top 3 when it comes to chakra control, and she's demonstrated a very good competence for basic medical skills. With a little nudging and extra training in that area, the girl could also be classified as the team medic. Kami knows how banged up the Gaki gets when we train. Then again, that thick skull of his does more damage to what he makes contact with. Poor trees. Several jonin just deadpanned at that tidbit of information. Anko rarely did things half-assed, and her methods, while unorthodox and intense, were effective. And Ino. The Yamanaka's role is simple. The infiltrator, the interrogator, the deadly femme fatale. That last bit threw many off. Femme fatale. Azuma had to admit that was a first during one of these. The girl's young, but she'll easily grow up into a beauty and start turning heads. Already is actually. She used her sex appeal to fight a superior opponent and almost won. The girl's got brains, wit, charms, and looks as a weapon. Combine that with some poison and a bit of refinement, and you've got yourself a deadly kunoichi. AKA me? Anko couldn't help her boasting. And while Hinata and Ino wouldn't really be powerhouses like Naruto, but then again, not all of them had reality-altering powers and a mountain of chakra within them. They had other strengths going for them that Naruto wouldn't be able to possess, either because of lack of interest or talent, or because of how far on a spectrum he already was. Interesting, Hiruzen mused. While it was uncommon for a team to have 2 kunoichi, 3 if one counted the jonin, and 1 male shinobi, it happened nonetheless. Both Naruto's mother and Hinata's mother had been part of a 3 kunoichi team along with Uchiha Mikoto, one that was led by his late wife, Biwako. Having a team with only 1 male genin and the rest being female, wasn't that bad or disconcerting? Do I hear any counters? I actually wanted Ino to form the Inashikacho batch. We all know how effective the trio have been when together, Asuma said. And I actually wanted Hinata under my care, seeing as how I've known her the longest and know what she needs to improve on. With a little training and being teamed up with Shino and Kiba, they'd make an excellent tracking team, Kurenai explained. I'm good. Really? It would have been interesting to teach Naruto some ninjutsu, but his fighting style and what he has is too different from my own. It would clash more so than anything, Kakashi said. While he would have liked to have taught his sensei's son, the man wasn't to make a big fuss about it. Naruto had improved under Anko. Best let the boy finish with her and see what he could do for him down the line. Hiruzen stroked his beard, contemplating what he was going to do, but seeing Anko's look, Hiruzen asked, "Problem, Anko?" "Permission to speak freely, Hokage-sama?" she asked. The elderly man knew he might regret it, but honestly wished to hear what she had to say. Granted. Both Nai-chan and Azuma's suggestions are flawed, Anko honestly said. And that's sugarcoating it. Explain, Hiruzen asked her, all the while applauding the woman for toning down the usual profanity. Okay, I'll admit with the smokestack that the Inashikacho team has been used and done for generations, and to deadly effect, Anko admitted, and Azuma didn't look insulted by the nickname. That being said, Hokage-sama, it's been done time and time again. New chapter, same old content. Much as I hate my bastard of a teacher, many tensed as they knew whom she referred to. The asshole did have some good points that stuck with me. We're ninja, and to win fights we need to be unpredictable. Yeah, what's your point? Azuma asked. The Inashikacho isn't unpredictable anymore. Sure, back in the day and now, their teamwork is recorded as being one of the best in ninja history. But here's the thing. They've been doing the same song and dance routine since the time they were founded centuries ago, that the shock and awe of it isn't what it used to be. You know what that means. The way they fight, the way they think, basically everything about the Inashikacho teams have been recorded throughout history. Which means that during that time span, our enemies have come up with ways to counter their moves. Yeah, they make an awesome and fearsome team, but put them against someone who knows how to fight them, or prevents them from pulling off their trademark moves, and they are almost sitting ducks, because that's basically all they're trained on. The other problem is that not all Inashikacho members work well together despite their clan ties, so the effectiveness of it isn't something to fear. Their strengths are also their biggest weakness. Their techniques are still deadly and useful, but after doing it for so long, unless they're exceptionally gifted or lucky, they're only truly effective when used in tandem with each other. But if you teach one of them something they don't know, something the enemy won't expect, you catch them off guard, throw the enemy off, and whatever plans they had will be forced to change or be left at their mercy. Kurenai finished. Exactly. Unfortunately, I know that Smokestack here isn't going to do that based on his past reputation. Azuma didn't bother denying it. The man was laid back and didn't bother doing things unless they were necessary. You can have the Nara and the Akamichi for all I care. I got no time or desire to teach lazy bums. And the Hyuga girl? Kakashi asked her. Quite frankly, and I don't say this to be mean, Nai-chan, her growth and skill as a kunoichi at the moment will be hampered under Kurenai, was Anko's blunt answer. Many near them backed away with the exception of Azuma and Kakashi, the latter of whom looked ready to snap his book shut and the other cast a wayward glance. While it was unlikely, both knew they may have to restrain them if it came to that. Kurenai and Anko were polar opposites as kunoichi, and good friends, but both had one thing in common. Their anger got the best of them at times. Excuse me. Not only was Kurenai insulted by the comment made by her friend, she looked the part too. I've known Hinata for a long time and I know what she needs. You've been jonin for less than a day now, Anko. What makes you the expert all of a sudden? She asked hotly, her Ice Queen of Konoha persona coming into play. 2 months, Nai-chan. Anko's response confused not only Kurenai but several of the other jonin, too. In almost 2 months' time since I was assigned as the Gaki's mentor, I managed to get him to do better at the academy. Not only that, but many thought the brat was gonna be the dead last, too. And guess what? Thanks to me, the Gaki's on his way to being in the middle ranking. Anko acknowledged that part of it was also thanks to his unique gamer ability. However, none here needed to know that, and the Kunoichi still played a major role in it too despite said ability. A lot of people thought it was impossible for the Gaki to show improvement, Nai-chan. Not only did he thrash those wannabe ninja during the taijutsu about half an hour ago, but he also beat the top of the class in taijutsu. What? Kurenai was left in disbelief, and she wasn't the only one. That's right. The Gaki beat the Inuzuka and the Uchiha, she smirked. Ask Umino. He organized the whole thing till I took over. Anko's words had many jonin looking at the academy instructor for confirmation. Iruka for his part merely nodded with a smile. It's true. Naruto defeated both Kiba and Sasuke. Damn, Azuma was pretty impressed. The man had heard about Sasuke being a prodigy like his older brother, and with the Uchiha clan's Sekendo Taijutsu style, it wouldn't be an easy fight. It was an impressive fighting style that was only enhanced by the Sharingan, but even it was very effective and formidable. Likewise, the Inuzuka were known for their Rankin, Wild Fist, Taijutsu as well, and their speed and feints were pretty well known. You need to face facts, Nai-chan. You're coddling the kid. You're too emotionally attached to push her beyond her limits. I'm attached to the Gaki, but I don't let it impede me from pushing him. I've done in 2 months what you have yet to do in 2 years. I'm not saying you didn't do anything. The girl's better than what she used to be. And I know that they're both different. The Gaki's got more piss and vinegar in him. But 2 years, and with little improvement, Mo. Stop. Kurenai's eyes were shadowed and her fists were trembling. Please stop, Anko. I've heard enough as well. Hiruzen butted in before it escalated further. I've made a decision. Anko, pending their results at the academy, and should they pass, I'm assigning Yamanaka Ino, Uzumaki Naruto, and Hyuga Hinata under your tutelage as Team 8. He smirked. It was payback time, but you get to tell Inoichi, Shikaku, and Chuza why their children for the next formation of the Inoshikacho is being skipped a generation. This is because I ruined the ending for you, isn't? Were he smoking his pipe? Hiruzen would have choked on the smoke. While some looked away, others tried to hold in their laughs. His former student was too quick for her own good at times. Afterwards, one by one did the Jonin inform Hiruzen on who they wanted to be a part of their team. With Kakashi, his primary choice was Uchiha Sasuke, Haruno Sakura, and Inuzuka Kiba. With Azuma, it was Nara Shikamaru, Akamichi Chuji, and Abiram Shino. When the last one was done, Hiruzen dismissed all of the Jonin except for Kurenai. I'm afraid you won't be getting a team this year, Kurenai, the man sadly informed the woman. Hokage-sama, Kurenai began but stopped when Hiruzen raised his hand. Kurenai, I have faith in your abilities to teach and lead others. I wouldn't have had you promoted otherwise. Kurenai smiled at the man's words. However, Anko is right. Assigning Hyuga Hinata to you could be detrimental to her growth. I cannot risk angering Konoha's most prominent clan if their heiress doesn't show improvement under her chosen Jonin's guidance. And those who know the truth about the incident with your last student have begun questioning your ability. Because of how recent it was, I think it may be wise if I postponed you from taking the position of instructor at the moment. Kurenai winced, and was glad that the office had only her and the Hokage at the moment. The incident with Kurenai's last student, Kurama Yakumo, whom she had tutored part-time a year previous, had been a disaster. While the girl was born with a permanent illness that prevented her from performing the physical tasks of being a shinobi, she had incredible intelligence and creativity. She was also prodigious in the art of genjutsu, and in time Kurenai knew Yakumo could easily surpass her. Kurenai wouldn't be surprised if the girl had yin release either. Then came the day she discovered Yakumo's secret, when she overheard some Kurama clan members. What she heard had been vague, but Kurenai summed up that her powers had resulted in the creation of a second entity inside her, one that was supposedly of dark origin, and the clan members feared she'd turn on them once she became powerful enough. In the end, Kurenai did what she thought was best, and sealed up the girls' powers to prevent them from getting out of control. A few members of the Kurama clan hadn't been pleased with that little stunt. Kurenai ended up not only destroying a young girl's dream along with her faith and trust in her, but ruined a clan's chance at returning to their former glory. During the era of warring states, the Kurama clan was highly feared as the weavers of reality, as their genjutsu were so powerful and felt so real that it caused many to become mentally shattered, comatose, or become frightfully catatonic and left at their mercy. They weren't as powerful or on the same class such as the Chiha and Senju, but were one of the few clans that had come very damn close. However, the clan had suffered a series of misfortune at the end of the Bloody Period and lost many prominent members to the world wars, and soon fell out of the limelight. Yakumo's skill was the clan's chance at a comeback, and Kurenai, who had learned some of their genjutsu as payment, had taken it away from them. To prevent the clan from taking action against her, Hiruzen informed them that he had given the order and subdued the rowdier and vindictive members. Being Hokage and the most powerful ninja in the elemental countries at the moment made the few that wanted retribution suddenly have a sudden change of heart. The clan was angry but not stupid. Hiruzen was old and no longer in his prime, but he was still a powerful force to be reckoned with despite his advanced age. However, as I said, I would not have promoted you if you didn't have the right skill set. Therefore, I'm assigning you as an assistant Jonin instructor. Whenever one of the instructors needs help or is required to take a mission outside Konoha beyond the capabilities of his or her genin, you will take charge, Hiruzen stated. Truthfully, Kurenai didn't know whether to be thankful or insulted by the opportunity. While she'd be allowed to teach, she'd basically be a second choice and second fiddle, really. Though Kurenai knew it was her fault. She failed not only one student, but also barely improved her current ward of 2 years. Anko, a person who didn't care for teaching others, had managed to improve the former dead last in almost 2 months. It was an eye-opener, really, and as much as she didn't want to admit it, Kurenai had to agree with her friend's statement. She was too close to Hinata, and without knowing it had begun coddling and holding Hinata back from unlocking her true potential. Whether it was because she feared losing Hinata once she was promoted, or because she felt the need to protect the girl from any further hardship was unknown, even to her. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Kurenai bowed to her leader and then left. The man sighed as Kurenai left. The elderly Hokage disliked moments like this. Kurenai was a relatively new Jonin compared to the others, but her skill in Genjutsu was unmatched in Konoha. She was no Senju Toka or Hozuki Gengetsu in the art, but given time the woman could potentially rival the Senju and Nadim Mizukage's skills in the art of illusions. Her skill in illusions along with her performance record was one of the main reasons why Kurenai had been promoted to Jonin almost 3 years ago. But, like everyone, the woman wasn't perfect. While he originally thought that Kurenai was ready to take on a team of her own, Anko had made some valid points, and the reminder of her failures had only contributed. Were they not so recent, it may have been a different matter. The Hyuga clan was a prestigious clan in Konoha, one of the original 4 noble clans, and with the downfall of the Senju clan during the Second Shinobi World War and Uchiha clan. Some years ago, the Hyuga were the strongest clan in Konoha. The man couldn't afford another incident with a clan if Kurenai coddled and hampered the growth of the clan head's daughter. Hiruzen knew that Hayashi loved his eldest daughter, but Hiruzen also knew that the Hyuga were strict trainers and demanded a lot from their children, especially their heirs. It had been the same case with Hiruzen and his father, Sarutobi Sasuke. One can only hope Anko can help the girl. The woman had done wonders with Naruto, but Hinata was a slightly different case. Elsewhere. Damn it. Naruto cursed when his block failed and resulted in him losing over 200 of his HP and becoming inflicting with the burning debuff as a penalty. Naruto wished he had used Sugeki, Crushing Strike, on the rat when he had the chance. Kaso being affected by Iezlo would have been great and rendered the rat at his mercy. As it was, Naruto and the rat merely looked at one another. Neither attacked. Hado was on the sidelines licking his wounds, and the rest of the horde was now almost non-existent, flinging powerful ninjutsu in great OE range that killed them in one blow would do that.
While the rat had the advantage in speed and its unique defense, which was unfortunately back in the game, Naruto had the upper hand in strength and cunning.
Quickly glancing around the cavern, Naruto kept his guard up but slowly moved and never took his eyes off of the speedy fire rat. Going back to the tunnel that he was closest to, Naruto did something unexpected. He went and bolted inside the tunnel. Though confused by the act, Kaso following after him. A decision the rat would soon regret. Knives of earth came at him in the dark like bats in flight, and when he moved to dodge, the rat slammed into sharp earthen spears that suddenly rose to intercept him. Futon, Shizenko, Wind Release, Lion's Battle Roar! Kaso's momentary daze and the width of the tunnel played in Naruto's favor. Harsh winds with the force of a stampede of rampaging bulls slammed into the dungeon boss and sent him flying back out where he entered. Key! Though the attack wasn't as bad it should have been, the force from the technique combined with how narrow the tunnel was made it, so the gale force was centered all on the rat the moment it entered the tunnel. Aru! Thanks, Hado. Naruto took off like a shot at the temporarily dazed creature, and struck it with Seigeki, crushing strike. While the Bakken was classified as a sword, its weapon type was a blunt weapon, so the technique was still usable. Not wasting any time, Naruto proceeded to rain as many Agarikin and Jakurian Ajakura Nagashi enhanced Ryoku Boku power strikes on the rat as he could, and just before its health complete disappeared, was it surrounded by a brilliant flash that was followed by a large and intense blaze. Damn it, Naruto cursed. A few more blows and the rat would have been dead. He had little time to think, however, as he felt the rat charge at him, and the boy hardly had time to dodge, or block this time. It was now much quicker and stronger, and for the next few minutes, the rat would charge in and attempt to strike him, and Naruto only just barely managed to keep up, block, or evade it. When it rushed in once again, Naruto waited even long and struck out with Edoran, but even then the rat managed to avoid. But its attention was so focused on him that the rat was glanced by Hado's Hitsuga. The unexpected maneuver caught him in the leg, and Kaso tripped over, the creature squeaking as it went skidding. Naruto took this opportunity to end this fight with a Washisenko, but the rat recovered too quickly, and the boy felt its head ram into his gut. His shirt now ablaze once more, Naruto was sent tumbling to the ground instead of finishing off the boss. It didn't end there though, as the rat jumped on him and attempted to bite his face. Naruto managed to stop it from doing so by horizontally sticking his Bakken in its mouth and held in at bay. With his greater strength, the rat's attempts at biting him were proving fruitless. It only worked momentarily. Kaso was smart and quickly changed tactics and began to rake at him with its flame-covered claws. Naruto was fortunate that, unlike the other rats, Kaso couldn't inflict with the Yua Poisonity or out-diseased debuffs. Naruto grunted as he felt the pain inflicted on him by the appendages. The rat squeaked when Hado latched onto his tail and distracted him long enough for Naruto to tuck in his legs and thrust outwards with a double kick. Though flung well away from him, the rat recovered and righted its body. Even then, his HP was now at the deep end of the red zone. Rising as quickly as he could, Naruto tried to put out the flames from his armor, but cursed even more when he saw Kaso retreat towards the tunnels. The gamer wasn't going to let the boss escape to recover what remaining health that easily, and set off after the fire rat. When the retreating creature was just about to enter the tunnels, Naruto quickly formed a hand sign and saw the rat's only means of escape blow up.
Boom! The suddenness of the explosion almost knocked him off balance and rocked the cavern. The boy could only watch as the tunnel entrance collapsed and filled with rocks.
Damn it, Naruto cursed as his vision was momentarily clouded by dust and flying rocks. When the dust cloud cleared, Naruto breathed a sigh of relief, when saw loot outside the tunnel entrance and the other rats gone. Hadamaru's level has increased by 1. Name: Hadamaru. Job: Ninkin, Ninja Dog. Level: 10. Next level: 1378, 7000. HP: 600, at 25. ITQA: 625. CP: 475 0. Win: 475. Starry: 13 0. 13. Vit: 24 1. 2225. Dex: 34 11 2 cow 35. End: 19 0. Tawin 19. Int: 7 Wu 0. 2A 7. Wis: 808. Cha: 5 and 0. 2Q 5. Look: 19 0. Tau 19. Defense: 10. App: 8. Kind 8 Wine. Lucky dog, Naruto thought. He himself had not leveled up, but he was close. What happened just now had been close. But, in the end, the evasive rat hadn't escaped in time. Kaso, the fire rat, was dead. The strategy had been something Naruto thought of when Kaso had recuperated, and when the rats had been culled to a considerable amount. Many tunnels and crevices had been laced with a series of Eloist ranking, exploding tags, and while not all the tunnels had them, and the strategy was a gamble, Kaso had made the mistake of going to one that did. Let's see how the boss liked dealing with a trap. Dumb rat, Naruto smirked. The boy knew that there was a chance of the rat trying to make a break for it if it got the chance. Naruto was just glad he managed to place them in the right tunnel. Now, let's see what we got here, he smirked. The first item was a scroll, much like with the zombie and the boar. The boy didn't bother wondering why it had it, and just rolled with it. Senka no Jutsu, Flashfire Technique, D rank, All V1, 0% to next, All V, Mastering Speed, C, a technique similar to the Shushin no Jutsu that allows one to move at incredible speed, while it simultaneously flares their chakra brilliantly, blinding them and potentially impeding their vision. As a result, this makes it an excellent technique to use when wanting to land a while initially superior to the Shunshin in terms of speed. Unlike the body flicker, the Flashfire skill only allows one to travel in a linear fashion. CP usage varies on distance, time, and actions used. Increases E-movement speed by 150% when activated. Increases critical hit chance 30% when activated. 30% chance of causing visually impaired debuff when activated. Foes must be within a 2-meter radius. Become undetectable for 10 seconds when deactivated. Foes must be within 5 level, your own or lower, and user must be out of sight. Requirements: 65. Dex. Mastery of 1 speed-based skill. Mastery of 2 fire-based skills. Hinazumi no Kogaito. Crimson Cloak of the Fire Rat. Epic quality. Item type: Cloak. Durability: 200, 200. Defense: 25. Description: an extremely rare and ancient object made from the hide of a powerful fire rat. Few of these cloaks were ever made, and all of them were thought to be lost or destroyed. The hide from the fire rat is composed of naturally occurring chakra-absorbing fibers, allowing the cloak to both negate fire and absorb it, but has a terrible reaction towards water. Unlike most cloaks, the material used in making this is not only very durable, but extremely light. Bonus. Perks: Fire Immunity, Max LV, Fire Eater LD1, Fire Master, ALD1. Unique. Item skill: Hari Hai no Nezumi, Shroud of the Fire Rat, Kaioken, Fist of the Sun. Few Injutsu slots available. 1 major slot, E2 minor slotsy. Flaws: Hydrophobia, Ni max alvasa. Usage. Requirements. Fire affinity. Hot damn! Naruto cheered at the find. While Zenka was awesome technique to learn, at the moment it was going to take a while before Naruto could even learn it. Any disappointment he had instantly evaporated after seeing his next loot. In your face, teammate! I got an awesome fire cloak and you don't. It was practically Christmas for the boy. Naruto couldn't be any happier. Totally worth it. He grinned and decided to put it on. Not bad, he thought. The hood that came with it was a nice touch too, and he had to admit that deep crimson was a very good color on him, even if it did sort of clash with his current attire's colors. Note to self: future armor must not clash with cloak's color, Naruto wisely decided. Hado was confused by his partner's behavior. Either way, the cloak would still offer him better defense. Picking up the last bits of loot, Naruto, though disappointed there wasn't a soulstone this time, found a near replica of what he found in the last dungeon. Only this time it was red in color. Hai no Kagi, fire key, very rare quality. Item type: quest item. Durability: one-time use. Description: a special key found in the dungeon chest of Training Ground 2. What its current use is for is currently unknown. Another one? Thinking back on it, Naruto did get a quest saying to locate them. Might as well get the other 3. If it was anything like his games, he likely would get very good loot. Naruto smiled as a pop-up appeared, but his face threatened to split in two when he saw the last one. Skills level up list. Observe: LV 9, LV mine, LV max. Intimidation: LLV 1, LV 3. Basic blunt weapons mastery: ELV with a not 1, LV 14. Basic blade weapons mastery: LA 14, LV 16. Sageki: LV 7 Noro, Intande. Ryoku Boki: LV 9, LD max. Kaiton: Inka L2, LV 6, LV 7. Doton, Doran: LV 5 and LV 7. Futon: Shizenku LV 1, LV 4 Shiu. Futon: Fuhaijin: ALV 1, LV Yarad 3. Instant: Dungeon Creation: ALV 1, LV 2 7. Chakra Nagashi. Crafting: LLV 4, LV. Hayagak: LLVO 1, LV 4 Shetan. Detect Bloodlust: L4, LV 9. Detect Presence: Elaval. Konoha Goka: ALV 5, LV 7 and D. Show: ILE 3, LV 3, LV 4 Shana. Congratulations! Your Kinstant Dungeon Creation skill has increased. You can now perform the following. Time Dilation for Creation Dungeons, 1-4 ratio. Time Dilation for Natural Dungeons, 1-2 ratio. Enter Zombie Dungeon, 1.5. Enter Haunted Woods, Vaughn. Afternoon, everyone. Sorry. Chapter 12. A long-awaited day. Over 2 months later. Finally, Hiruzen sighed as he finished the last of today's paperwork. With this year's block of academy students graduating but a mere couple of days away, the amount had been increasing. The man took the opportunity to look over Konoha. The rooftops were covered in decent coat of glittering white. While the country of Hai no Kuni didn't get as much snow compared to Kumo Mizu or some of the other lesser countries, they still had the occasional winter where they received a decent blanket of snow. Hiruzen treasured rare moments such as these. The man recalled his first snowfall in Konoha as a young boy, a moment that he shared with his teammates and teachers. The group had been training almost all day when the weather had gradually shifted from cool to cold, followed by the falling of snowflakes from above. The group had later spent the rest of the day merely playing and enjoying the change in scenery. The man chuckled as he recalled how both Tobirama and Hashirama managed to take a friendly snowball fight and somehow transformed it into an epic battle. The man remembered how the two most powerful men in Konoha received a scolding from Mito and cowered before the intimidating woman as though they were mere children. Hiruzen only regretted not having a camera to picture the event. To relive such a moment such as that one last time, even if it was only once, the god of shinobi wished to spend one last moment with his departed teachers and loved ones. But the man shook such thoughts from his mind. It wouldn't do well to dwell on the past and cloud one's thoughts with such things. While it was good to dream, sometimes they could become a burden and hamper a person from doing what was required of them in the present. There were few times where Hiruzen felt his age since becoming Hokage. However, in the most recent years since retaking the mantle after the Kyuubi incident, those times came more often than he'd like to admit. Training when he had the time was often one of them. It was abundantly clear to those who bore witness to his skill as a ninja in his youth that he was no longer at the top of his game, as the saying went. While no spring chicken any longer, he was still a force to be reckoned with, and still the most powerful of the 5 Kage. In a few years' time, that would very well likely change. Whereas 10 years ago he could train for a little over 6 hours before breaking into a decent sweat, Hiruzen could barely do 3 hours without his wizened body looking like a watered plant, and feel the ache in his bones and tired muscles well into the next day, and beyond without seeing his personal medic. Powerful as he was, Hiruzen was no Senju or Uzumaki, whose bodies brimmed with life well beyond that of others. While his mind hadn't dulled and only grown sharper with age, it was clear that his body was on the opposite track. However, the former could be contested as well when it came to dealing with the politics of running a ninja village, and one of the Great Five no less. As Hokage, he was the head of the village, and had the ultimate say. It was more easily said than executed. A leader not listening to the concerns of his people, and doing merely what he wished could be seen as a tyrant, while one who did everything to appease everyone could be viewed as a weak figurehead. Every village had their own way of ruling, just as did every leader that came into office. Hiruzen had long since learned that he would never be able to appease everyone with his decisions, and when making one, he'd have to live and deal with the consequences that arose from them. Was he perfect as many viewed him to be? Flattered as he was by the compliment, Hiruzen acknowledged his faults, and they were many. But then, Hiruzen was more of an idealist like Hashirama than a cynical realist like Tobirama. Which brought him to the most recent thing that made him feel old. They had a spy in their midst. Oh, Hiruzen wasn't naive nor foolish not to suspect that every village had 1 or 2 spies within them. Konoha itself had spies in other villages, but this was different. This was espionage on an entirely different scale than what he was used to. And Hiruzen took the wise words of his deceased mentor, Tobirama, to heart. When suspecting one, always suspect more. It was clear someone was sabotaging the education of his future forces. Certainly, the curriculum had since toned down since Tobirama first founded the academy. Different times meant different methods, and they had only just come out of the era of warring states. Nor was it as accelerated or intense as it was during times of war. But the current requirements to graduate would have boiled Tobirama's blood. And he was the more level-headed Senju brother. Removing the trial from the curriculum, he learned, had been a way to appease those with non-shinobi backgrounds. Hiruzen could understand that on some level, but even he couldn't agree with its dismissal. A person who couldn't take a life, even those deemed better fit for non-combatants roles, wasn't a ninja. How such things had gone so long without him knowing was not only blow against his pride, but added credit to the fact that he was needing to step down. Many called him the greatest Hokage, but for allowing such a thing to happen, Hiruzen believed otherwise. Hiruzen liked to see the good in people, or perhaps he hoped he did. And sometime after the Uchiha clan massacre, he realized he had to acknowledge that others had begun taking advantage of that weakness, and now it was coming back. Haunt him. Tasks and positions delegated to others because of trusts, and how numerous they were likely played a role in the current situation they faced. Going after them was far from easy. A from Kumo would have bulldozed ahead into the matter. The man had a short fuse when it came to severe insults either to himself, those he cared about, or his village. But Hiruzen wasn't the Fourth Reikage, eager and quick to action. At least, not anymore. He wasn't. Nor was he Onoki, the only Kage older than himself, who would go too far in rectifying the situation. All it took was one wrong move. One person missed for whichever reason. Personal bias, clouded judgment, not having all the facts, etc. And who knows how they'd retaliate? This wasn't the first time Konoha had been infiltrated, but it was certainly a different modus operandi. The goal was the same: Konoha's destruction. Unlike before, where the results were designed to be instantaneous, this was more akin to a slow-acting poison, much more subtle and long-lasting consequences in the long run. Hiruzen had narrowed down the list of potential suspects, but with so few information, and so few he could trust on the matter, or believed he could trust, it was a slow process. By the time he was ready to take action, they may very well have already shown their hand, or flown the coop. And with this year's batch graduating in a few days, there's little that can be done for them. Hiruzen could only hope they'd resolve the matter before the next students graduated. A knock on the door broke the man away from his heavy thoughts. Yes? Hokage-sama. Mariko's voice rang from the other side. Uzuki Yugao and Gecko Hayate are here to see you. The mention of Naruto's sword instructors wanting to see him piqued the man's interest. Send them in, and then you can go home, Mariko-chan, the man instructed. Thank you, Hokage-sama, Mariko replied before the door opened, and he was greeted by both swordsmen. After paying their respect to their village leader, Hiruzen asked, Yugao Hayate, what can I do for you? The man had an inkling that this was going to be about Naruto. Sorry to keep you, Hokage-sama. Both bowed at their village leader once more. But it's a little urgent. At the word urgent, the elderly but powerful man's composure shifted from relaxed to rigid, and then to worry. Has something happened? Is Naruto all right? Seeing the look of worry and hearing it in his voice, Hayate reassured his leader, Naruto's fine, Hokage-sama. Cough. The kid's coming along quite well, actually. Damn kid's a sponge. When it comes to the physical portion at least, he added, and Yugao released a chuckle while Hiruzen released a sigh of relief. It's actually about his special condition and what it impedes him to do. The QB, or are you referring to his large chakra pools? The man asked. No word had reached him of Naruto taping into the chakra of the most powerful of the nine or the seal acting up. But one couldn't be too careful when it came to the Biju. The latter, and that's putting it lightly, Yugao clarified. The Anbu member was a talented sensor, and could tell that Naruto easily had the largest pool of chakra out of all the genin in Academy. Indeed, the woman knew offhand that the boy had even more chakra reserves than most Junin as well. Certainly not as strong such as Kakashi's average, but dense reserves or powerful like the Hokage's, but the blonde Jinchuriki had tons of chakra to spare nonetheless. The amount of chakra that his kid will allow him to do things most Jonin can't do, let alone what an academy student or genin can do. Hiruzen mentally snorted. Neither shinobi before him had any idea of the boy's true potential could be given his heritage and condition as a Jinchuriki. But it's also taking away his ability to make a proper clone. Naruto mastered the water surface exercise, but the kid simply has too much chakra to adequately make one. Graduation is but a couple of days away, and Naruto will fail despite everything he has accomplished. Hiruzen concluded with a frown. The man couldn't exactly exempt Naruto for such a thing. It wouldn't be fair to the other students who couldn't do it either. The man had gotten a ton of complaints from others for giving the boy a private tutor, and while he had paid for it out of his own pocket, it still didn't placate many. Short of Naruto having a physical impairment, such as Rock Lee, who was exempted from the ninjutsu portion of the exam, or it being wartime where it could sometimes be overlooked, there was little he could do right now. Hiruzen was the Hokage, and had absolute power in Konoha. His words were law, but it wasn't as easy as it sounded. Tobirama had placed laws that had long ago been put in place to prevent a Hokage from abusing their authority over the village. An example was a Hokage candidate needing the support and backing of the village council, head Junin, Anbu commander, and fire daimyo council should a former Hokage die before appointing a successor. Another was using his authority to give someone such as family or family friends an advantage over others. While it wasn't the intent and had never happened in Konoha, it could easily be seen as such by others. Hiruzen recalled certain daimyos and village leaders from the minor countries giving family and friends benefits such as more authority or leeway in certain matters. In some cases, it led to a civil war or almost escalate into one. Hiruzen seriously doubted it would go that far, but knew that many who were clouded by hate would do almost anything. Unfortunately, there is little I can do at the moment. While many weren't thrilled about Naruto being given a tutor, the boy was still dead last, and many more saw my actions as simply helping a struggling student. But now that Naruto has improved to a decent level, any more help I give him will simply be seen as preferential treatment, he revealed. Yugao frowned at the man's words. Despite being a ninja, the woman had a particular dislike of politics and the endless web of deceit therein. Many had often said that the pen was mightier than the sword, and it was true. With a single signature, a country decree, law, or regulation could impede one, make others suffer for little to no reason, or start a rebellion. So, if Naruto can't be exempt from the Bunshin portion of the exam, what can we do? Hiruzen sighed. The woman had just asked the million Ryo question. Meanwhile, "All right, everyone, settle down," was Iruka's shout. But one bored blonde ignored it, and only half listened. The day was pretty much over, so there was much to do anyway, besides listen to Iruka's end of the day spiel. Naruto sighed and Hato yawned from his spot on the ground. Bored didn't seem appropriate a word to describe how he felt. But with the graduation exam a mere couple days away, he wouldn't be able to take it early. Even then, Naruto still hadn't been able to solve his current problem. Clones? Give him monsters to fight, and he wouldn't hesitate. Have him go against Sasuke with one arm tied behind his back, and he'd do it. He had actually proposed it. And then Iruka-sensei had given him detention for aggravated arrogance. Hell! Give him an angry Anko and he'd... Alright, bad example. He'd freely admit he'd run away. An angry... Anko scared the hell out of everyone. Him getting detention for something so stupid had not bore well for the academy student. The woman knew he would have succeeded, but had to pound into his head to never show off one's true strength, unless it really mattered. A tourney didn't matter. But that was neither here nor there. 2 months, nearly 3. Over 2 bloody effing months had passed, and even then, Naruto still hadn't been able to find a solution to his clone problem. To be honest, he was actually starting to worry. Everything else had been improved upon, of which many in his class had remarked upon, and no longer was he in the lower ranking. Now, he was in the low-middle ranking. Though that was mainly because they also calculated his past performance into his grade, before his gamer ability came into play. Even then, Naruto still struggled until Anko took him under her wing, and then began boosting his int. And yet, all that improvement means nothing unless I can make a stupid clone. And what was the point, really? Anko had told him that the basic Bunshin was virtually useless against ninja, unless you were facing someone really stupid or unobservant. But regardless of this fact, it remained a mandatory prerequisite to becoming a genin. Iruka had been sympathetic and had mentioned that exceptions such as birth defects that prevented one from properly molding chakra were taken into consideration. But they were rare, and even then, other factors such as previous performances over the years came into consideration. Naruto had no such defect, and while he had certainly improved, his former performance worked against him. Trying to learn other variants of the clone technique proved fruitless, too. Much like the Bunshin, elemental clones required a great amount of control to form. Naruto simply had too much chakra. While the ratio required to properly form such clones was more reasonable compared to the ordinary Bunshin, they were still too great. Even if Naruto were to put all the leftover attribute points to increase his already improved int, wouldn't make a difference. The difference between his int and end was astronomical, especially after ridding himself of the malnourished flaw. Suffice to say, Naruto had never been more pissed. Well, maybe when Ichiraku closed down when Tucci and Ayame went on vacation, but that was a memory best forgotten, and locked away behind countless steel doors and traps. It hadn't been the only setback he had faced in the last couple of months. A series of events had begun with a pop-up after the Earth dungeon was conquered. First, his gamer perk had announced that it was undergoing an upgrade in its system as a result of his achievements. Whatever the hell that meant, he had no idea. What he did know was that during that time he wouldn't be able to enter any dungeon for the next bit, and he received fewer quests as well. Second, Anko becoming a Jonin had also changed things. Her newly acquired rank also came with more duties and responsibilities. A downside of which meant that their training sessions were no longer as regular as they once were, though the intensity has been amped up. Naruto hadn't been idle during such times. Anko wouldn't let him, and neither would Hayate or Yugao or Iruka after what he accomplished during the tourney. Extra homework, Griot. But that wasn't it. Oh no, a week later when the upgrade was done, and he now had Gamer 2, Naruto believed his itch for dungeon crawling was at an end. It was in a matter of speaking. While his instant dungeon creations were still accessible alongside the dungeons he conquered, the newer dungeons based around the 5 elements, for while Naruto had very well established that he was slow at times, he was perceptive, required more than just conquering the previous dungeons. The third dungeon that centered on the wind element required him to increase his stealth skill and detection skills by 10 levels, as well as master 2 stealth-based skills, 2 speed-based skills, or a combination of the two, neither of which he had yet to accomplish, but by the time he did, it was 3 weeks later. Naruto seriously hated the low visibility the wind dungeon caused. Still, the boss loot had been worth it in his opinion. The last 2 dungeons had been an even greater pain in the ass. The water dungeon required him knowing the Sumin Hoko no Gyo water surface walking method, a chakra control exercise. But that brought its own share of problems. The leaf exercise had to be mastered, and then he needed to learn and master the Ki Nobori no Shugyo tree climbing practice. And with chakra control exercises being his bane, even with the gamer on his side, it had not been quickly accomplished tasks, nor painless ones given Anko's patented methods. Naruto still couldn't look at a hot spring without his body flaring up. The lightning dungeon, the final dungeon, and its requirements were better left unsaid. Even with his primary affinity being wind and lightning's superior, it had been the most difficult dungeon to conquer. Lightning, which was regarded by many as the most powerful of the 5 primary elements, and Naruto was tempted to agree with them, was an exceptionally dangerous element to deal with. It was swift, destructive, and had a large AOO radius. The enemies of that dungeon, the boss especially, reflected the first 2 characteristics very much. Lightning technique users, much like wind, were also very uncommon in Hai no Kuni. And so, having never faced or ever had the opportunity to practice against one who knew such techniques, had forced him to learn and adapt on the fly. It was either that, or feel his entire body spasm and twitch and burn on the inside. Despite coming out as the victor, and that had not been an easy feat, Naruto still wondered if it was worth it. I get all the keys and I can't even use them until after that stupid timer reaches 0! And that had only been the kick in the teeth. The kick in the balls was Naruto needing to be at a certain level, level 30 in this case, in order to unlock whatever rewards the damn things granted. The long string of colorful cursing might have made Hayate and Yugao blush. Anko would have simply said she heard better. Naruto guessed she meant by her. Almost 3 months later, and Naruto was only at level 23, almost 24. Another kick in the pants was Naruto realizing that leveling up was becoming slower and harder, to accomplish the moment he reached level 20. Even with his titles and perks, the XP he was gaining from enemies was either too low or non-existent because of their level difference. While harder, the Zombie Dungeon 1.5 only offered a greater challenge and loot drops than a real boost in experience points. The Lightning Dungeon was the only one with foes that offered decent exp, but Naruto was good for the next bit given his recent experience. On the upside, he had mastered many of his skills since then, and leveled up, but all those accomplishments, much like his conquering of the dungeons, would amount to nothing if he didn't graduate. No way in hell am I repeating again. And to make matters worse, Naruto recalled something about the academy having a rule of 3 strikes, and you're out when it came to graduating attempts. He didn't know if it was true, and if he didn't become a genin short of him leaving the village and going off on his own, Naruto was sure he'd plateau at some point. Becoming a genin would allow him access to missions and challenges necessary to becoming stronger. He'd need to consult with Yugao or Hayate. Wenchi. Unfortunately, it is true. Naruto grunted in displeasure and effort at holding his opponent's blade back. Of all the rotten luck, count yourself lucky. Back when Tobirama-sama was around, the rule was you only had 2 chances to prove yourself. And that was after changing it from only having 1 chance when the academy first opened. Naruto mentally gulped and guessed he should count himself lucky. He wasn't born so many decades ago. But his momentary lapse was quickly taken advantage of, and he found himself on his back with a wooden sword at his throat. Dead, Yugao declared. While his mind had been elsewhere at the time, Naruto couldn't use it as an excuse. Neither Anko nor Hayate or Yugao would accept it. A distracted shinobi was a dead shinobi. My turn, love. Moving to the side, Yugao watched as Hayate took out his steel katana and ordered Naruto to grab his own sword. With the threat of live steel, Naruto's senses heightened, and his mind laser-focused. Grabbing a scroll, Naruto took out Shichizo Lodge, Bloody Ivory, and used Gariki to heighten his star so he could use the oversized weapon without penalties. With his star now in the triple digits, the blade felt much less cumbersome in his arms. Both Hayate and Yugao had been surprised when they first saw it, but after explaining his desire to use a Zenbato down the line, they understood his reasoning. While the Jinbyo Ryu, blade of the dancing leaf style, was designed more around using much lighter swords given its emphasis on speed, feints and disorientation, different variations of the style based on the user's weapon of choice wasn't unheard of. Although Hayate and Yugao confessed that Naruto would likely be the first to create a variation that utilized a weapon categorized as a great sword. But then, that also meant that no one knew how to deal with it. Hajime. Naruto didn't make the first move. Time and pain had taught him that even with a much lighter sword, he was too slow to rush Hayate's precise counters. Naruto had greater strength because of Hayate's condition, but the man's dex was much greater than his own, even if he couldn't see the exact number. That said, Hayate had a pattern whenever he started his bouts. You heard about the prank I pulled? Naruto asked as he ducked. The practice of making idle conversation or banter while they spared was something Hayate encouraged him to master. Not only could it allow him to throw off his opponent, but the best of swordsmen and ninja were meant to multitask while they fought, keeping one eye on their opponent, the other on their surroundings, and their senses acute for anything their eyes couldn't see. Pretty. Sure, half the village force knows, Hayate acknowledged before deflecting the bigger weapon's swing with ease. Still can't believe you did that. Hey! If someone pranks you, then you have every right to try and prank them back. It was common sense in Naruto's opinion. Not when that person is Anko, Hayate rebuked, and then performed a fast slash that was smoothly followed by a leg sweep. While caught by the maneuver, Naruto managed to right himself with a backflip as he'd been taught. So, what if it was Anko? She started it. You're lucky not to be maimed, he heard Yugao tell him. Or, worse, Hayate added before he moved faster than before. I heal quickly, neither Jonin could dispute that fact. Naruto healed very quickly. One of the few perks from his tenant, besides, I'd rather have that than what she did in retaliation. It was just ramen, Naruto. Hayate honestly didn't know how he managed to befriend two individuals obsessed with a particular dish. It was my ramen, some of which was expired, which in itself was hard to digest. Expiration dates mean nothing to remain. The gods willed it so. If I didn't know any better, I'd swear Anko gave birth to you herself. The woman said that exact same thing about Dango. As if reading his thoughts, Naruto said, "Not possible. Dango sucks, too sweet and too chewy for his taste." Blasphemy! Ah! The unexpected event had Naruto wildly swinging his sword, only for it to act like a shuriken when he lost his grip on the weapon, thanks to the snakes that swarmed him like an ant colony. "Hey! Watch it!" Hayate barked. While the large sword wasn't on a direct course with anyone, losing his grip on it was a foolish mistake and dangerous to boot. That stunt just earned you another hour. That wasn't really a punishment in Naruto's opinion, until the man added, sparring with Anko going all out. Jerk! The backtalk only served to earn himself an additional hour. Hayate and Yugao he could do. 2 hours of him against Anko going all out was nightmare-inducing. Especially with her new favorite toy, the Dokuso no Jutsu, toxic luster claw technique. Talk about instead regret, the trade hadn't not been one of his smarter moves. Naruto liked to think he was a nice guy. If someone was his friend, he'd be there in a flash or help them in any way possible. But, in all honesty, he couldn't help but wonder what the hell was he thinking by giving Anko the skill scroll he acquired from the rat dungeon. Sure, the skill was useless to him given its requirements, and he could have made decent cash selling it through the Kabus auction instead. But no! Naruto had to be the nice guy and give it to Anko instead, for a significantly reduced price, of course. The boost in relationship points was nice, but the skill was a literal pain in the ass given it formed a corrosive whip. It had been love at first sizzle for the Mad Tea specialist. The pain can wait a bit. The sexy Mitarashi Anko has the answer to all your prayers. You know how to cook ramen in an instant, a hopeful Naruto asked. While the comment threw Yugao and Hayate off, Anko was not. Why would I have that answer when I'd want instant dango instead? Besides, even if I knew that, I wouldn't tell you for free. That last bit was true. They're both mad, Hayate whispered so only his lover could hear. No comment, was the Ambu's reply. I'm talking about your clone problem. Graduation is only a few short days away. I talked to Hokage-sama a few minutes ago. Heard you guys had the same idea, Anko asked, to which they nodded. You did. What's the verdict? Naruto asked, and hoped for good news. Want the good news or the bad news first, kid? Hayate asked him. The boy asked for the bad news first. The bad news is that, after we talked with Hokage-sama, we couldn't get you exempt from the Bunshin portion of the exam. If he did, then it would be seen as favoritism and others who also can't do it would want to be exempt from it as well. Crap, there went that option. And the good news. Here, Anko smirked. The good news is that as long as you can show your ability to create a flawless clone during the exam, you'll pass. However, you're incapable of using the regular clone technique, or an elemental one given your chakra-to-chakra control ratio. So, instead the Hokage has allowed me to teach you a different clone technique that I believes you can use. Okay, what's that? Naruto asked. It's called the Cage, Bunshin, no Jutsu, shadow clone technique. Anko informed him. The elderly Sandame had barely taken half a puff of his pipe before finding himself choking on what was meant to be a soothing burn, and once again felt just how old he was when Anko asked permission to teach an academy student one of the most difficult B-rank techniques developed by the Naidame Hokage. Are you sure? What am I saying? Of course you are. Hayate couldn't help himself. Yugao herself couldn't help but add commentary. Anko, you've done some pretty questionable things before. but teaching an academy student the Kage Bunshin of all techniques. We've already established. I'm not all there, and while many would say that was her mentor's influence on her, Anko had always been wild even before Orochimaru had sunk his fangs into her. Naruto was skeptical. Okay, what's the difference between this and the other clones techniques I can't use? Normally, it's only used by Jonin and above because of the large amount of chakra level requirements. It took some convincing, but I managed to get permission from Hokage-sama to make an exception. Thank you, Gigi. Naruto smiled. Both because of what his surrogate grandfather did for him, and because he'd now be able to pass the exam. This is serious, Naruto. Hayate barked out authoritatively. The Kage Bunshin is a borderline kinjutsu technique. He's right. This isn't going to be easy, Naruto. Yugao's voice held a strict tone. It took me and Hayate close to a month to properly learn the Kage Bunshin, and years more to acquire the necessary chakra, before we were deemed ready to use it without posing a danger to either of us. This technique requires not only a lot of chakra, but a great deal of concentration to form and create the amount of clones you want. People have died because of how demanding the technique is. They either made too many clones and they went into shock from the severe amount of chakra they wasted or lost, and the body couldn't handle it and gave out. We have less than 2 days for you to learn how to properly use this technique. So, the moment we begin, we don't stop until you get it done. Quest alert! Art of the Shadow Clone. Main quest. Learn the skills Kage Bunshin, no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Technique, and Utaiju Kage Bunshin, no Jutsu, Multiple Shadow Clone Technique, before the Academy graduation exam. Side quest: master the skills Kage Bunshin, no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Technique, and Utaiju Kage Bunshin, no Jutsu, Multiple Shadow Clone Technique, before the Academy graduation exam. Main quest completion: acquire the skills Kage Bunshin, no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Technique, and Utaiju Kage Bunshin, no Jutsu, Multiple Shadow Clone Technique. Exam. Side quest completion: 1250 XP per skill mastered. Failure. Chances of failing the Academy graduation exam increases. Accept. Quest. Yes, no. Special note: decline this quest may affect future outcomes in a negative manner. Naruto merely smirked. The boy wasn't afraid of a challenge, and to become a ninja he'd get the technique down in time. It was his ninja way. But first, that torture session. Anko cackled with glee, her hand becoming claw-like and oozing with hungry yellow-green energy. Shit! 2 days later. More than once was Naruto thankful that his ability allowed him to wake up, refreshed and sore, and ache free from the labors of the previous day. Neither Jonin had held back, and while he hadn't been able to master either technique in such a short amount of time, he had been able to learn both of them and get them to a decent level in a short amount of time, to their complete bafflement. And Naruto couldn't help but be excited. Today was the day that he and many at the academy dreamed about. Today was the day of the graduation ceremony. Today was the final day at the academy, and the last day of boring lectures and other non-thrilling or non-stimulating activities. Next up, missions. Oh right. Naruto's good mood went south when he realized that all he'd be doing were D-rank ones inside the village for the next little while. In other words, the same thing he'd been doing for the last few couple of months. Naruto could have counted his blessings that he'd get paid this time, but the amount wasn't all that much when split between 3 ways, and that was after the village got its cut. Jonin generally didn't take a cut on D-rank missions. Meh, at least I'll pass. Naruto would take what he could get. He still got a kick out of Yugao and Hayate's looks. What had taken them close to a month to learn and many more to properly use, and master had taken him less than a couple of days to get the hang of it. Naruto simply had a natural affinity for the technique. But Hayate had warned Naruto of the flaws and risks he would encounter. The Shadow Clone technique splits the user's chakra equally among the number of clones you create. If you make too many, you'll barely have any chakra for yourself. He remembered the man's warning. While Naruto was capable of creating well over 9 clones with the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, with its more advanced Kenjutsu variant, he knew he could make almost 650 clones thanks to his large chakra reserves. But even that was risking it. The boy had done the math. 650 Narutos meant that every single one of them would only have slightly over 25 CP in them. His gamer ability stated that a person's CP suddenly going below 25 CP would be at great risk of going into shock, perhaps even dying, or having so little chakra. Anko elaborated by saying that it was the major risk of the technique, and why only those with certain types of chakra, or very large amounts of chakra, should use the skill even when practicing. It was akin to having a full body of blood to having almost none. The little amount would not affect the shadow clones compared to the regular Bunshin, but would still have drawbacks. Everyone was born with enough chakra to survive when they were born, some with more or less than others because of one reason or another. There was a difference, however, in having chakra and being able to actually use it. Almost anyone could use chakra, but the process had much greater success at a very young age. Naruto found that it was why the academy tried to increase a student's chakra reserves and control before they started teaching them techniques. With animals and creatures from dungeons, the rules were an exception due to their different body structures and makeup from humans. Similar to how a human's body allowed them to do things such as eating foods an animal couldn't, and vice versa. Hayat said that since the bodies had little chakra in them, they weren't as durable either if he made fewer clones. The boy wasn't dumb. Aside from the risk of him suddenly blacking out for splitting up too much of his chakra, a copy of him split almost 700 ways wouldn't be able to use a ninjutsu skill more than once before it ran out and disappeared, and even then that was the basic stuff. Which meant that such a large amount of clones would more or less be better suited as an intimidation tactic against weaker foes, or as a distraction when he wanted to overwhelm a single individual much stronger than himself. At the moment, the perfect amount of clones to make was between 10 and 20. This way, they either had between close to 2000 CP or close to 1000 CP each. Having that number would allow them to use some of the more powerful techniques, and their durability was much higher. The only problem was that since Naruto was still relatively new to the technique, his control over the amount of clones he wanted to make wasn't the greatest. The lowest he could make was 8, and while he regained any chakra they had after they dispelled, he only got about 80% of said CP. "Wake up, Gaki!" Ah! Naruto jumped up in fright. The now 4'11", and still growing, Genin drew Chichizou John reflex. "Oh, that never gets old," Anko laughed as she entered the room. "By the way, your security needs some improvement." The blonde's eyes bulged when he saw a bound and gagged Hato courtesy of several large serpents. The Ninken was glaring bloody daggers at the woman as he struggled to free himself. "That's never gonna stop, is it?" He sighed upon seeing her smile. It was all the answer he needed. "What do you want, Anko-sensei?" he asked as he took his clothes into the bathroom and began dressing himself, not bothering to free Hato since the snakes would bite him. Snakes' bites hurt. "I'm hurt, Gaki," she heard him snort. "Well, whatever. Just came to see how you were doing. Feeling pumped for the big day." "On one hand, hell yeah." The woman laughed a bit at his enthusiasm. "On the other hand, I'm not caring so much about the whole D-rank mission I have to do." "Ugh, don't remind me," Anko groaned lowly. It was one of the few downsides of teaching, she realized. Personally speaking, Anko didn't see D-rank missions as actual missions. They were nothing but chores that lazy or elderly individuals paid for to get done. Many went about saying how it helped promote teamwork, and the woman often called them on the bullshit. Certainly there were some D-rank missions that required them to work together, such as the infamous capture mission that involved the next generation of Torah. But that was only 1/3 of the time. The rest they did specific chores by themselves under the watchful guidance and view of their teachers. "You nervous?" she asked him. "Nah," Naruto replied from the bathroom. "This is gonna be easy," he smirked. "Cocky much?" she asked him, and Naruto froze. "On this I can let that slide." "I'd be too with the amount of skills you have now," Anko mentally pouted. She had graduated at age 10, compared to the usual graduating 12 or 13 ratio, and had been required to show the Academy 3, pass the written and taijutsu portion of the exam, and show that she could proficiently use 3 C-rank techniques, be they ninjutsu, bukijutsu, or genjutsu. "Any thoughts on who you want to be teamed up with?" she asked. Naruto hadn't really thought about it much, to be honest, but quickly came up with an answer. "Not really. I mean, Shikamaru and Chuji are kinda lazy, and as much as I like those guys, I don't know if I'd want to team up with them. Maybe Sasuke, Timi, or Dog Breath, since they're pretty skilled, but they're always trying to be top dog." Got it. The image was crystal clear to Anko. Chuji and Shikamaru were decent individuals and easy to work with, but were easily controlled by their vices, and if given the option, they'd rather do that than train or go the extra mile. It wasn't an attitude Anko would put up with. Hiba and Sasuke, more so Sasuke, were skilled and serious about the ninja lifestyle, but Anko had seen from experience that while rivalry was good, there was a chance that could end badly, especially when it was evident that one was starting to get better than the other or be promoted while the other wasn't. And Sasuke had issues even if he wouldn't admit them out loud. Anyone with a clan slaughtered by their own kin would have them. Anyone else? Shino and Hinata are quiet, but I guess I could work with them. Naruto didn't know either of them personally, but neither one made fun of him. Ino's a loudmouth, but she's one of the better students? Sakura-chan, maybe? Anko wasn't surprised. Despite what happened months ago, emotions and feelings for another didn't go away quite as easily as some made it out to be. It could have been worse. Anko had seen talented shinobi let their skills go to waste because of heartbreak. Naruto still had lingering feelings for the Pinkette, but at least he didn't let them impede his growth as a ninja. Truthfully, she did this merely because she wanted to see what his reaction would be when he was part of the team she wanted. With Ino he was hesitant but willing to work with, which was fine in her books, and with Hinata he was indifferent, but okay with, as she didn't make fun or demean him like some of the others. Ino's father, along with his former teammates, hadn't exactly been thrilled at the idea of their children not following in his shoes. But Anko had come prepared. Strong as they are individually, and as powerful as they are together, those men are whipped by their wives. Anko cackled just as Naruto got out of the bathroom. The woman gave Naruto a look over and creased her eyebrows. "You're gonna need to replace your outfit soon, Gaki." The woman wasn't lying as she eyed the cuts and rips on the worn-out ninja wear. Then again, it was basic training armor, and not really meant for combat situations like the practice he was getting in the dungeons. Yeah, I know, the boy knew already his gear needed replacing. His armor had seen better days even with him having the E-gear maintenance skill. The skill lengthened the lifespan, but it wasn't infinite, and the maximum durability went down each time it was fixed. What he wore was the last one he had on, thanks to an unfortunate encounter with a rare spawn gear-destroying slime that had completely destroyed his second set and Seishoyo when it pulled a kamikaze move upon defeat. Being naked, angry, covered in God knows what, and losing a damn good weapon in that sewer was one of his worst experiences. But the stuff I want is too damn pricey. He had a ton of money now, but was saving it for something else. "You gotta spend money to make money, Gaki," Anko informed the soon-to-be graduate. "Anyway, just dropped by to say good luck, Gaki. Not that you'll need it, though." "Thanks," he smiled at the woman before grabbing Haremaru. "See you later, Anko-sensei," the boy said, opened a window, and along with Hato set off towards the academy. Konoha Academy sometime later. Naruto and his classmates waited patiently for the teachers to come in and begin the exam. The students were in a bigger classroom as the other potential graduates from the other blocks joined theirs. The two blocks only ever met one another during lunchtime because of different schedules. Each block only had 30 students or less because some were either held back, failed, or skipped ahead, and because the number allowed the teachers to effectively regulate and look after the students. The reason why they were joined today was because they were all undergoing the same test at the same time compared to before. The first part was the written portion that lasted a good 2 hours, followed by a 45-minute break as they marked down the results. And then the physical portion of the exam began, which lasted an hour and a half. Afterwards, they had lunch for 30 minutes and began the final portion, which lasted half an hour, which consisted of the academy, 3 ninjutsu. It was flawed really when one thought about it. Even if a person fails the other portions, they can pass so long as they do well on the last one. It made no sense really why the ninjutsu portion had a greater weighing average than the other 2 portions. Arf, Hadamaru agreed with his partner.
The moment the door opened, everyone directed their attention towards the 6 academy instructors that walked in. Glad to see you're all paying attention to me for once. A few laughed at Iruka's joke, even some of the teachers. Now before we begin, I'd like to say how proud I am to see you all here. Your journey was long.
Sensei, can we forgo the sentimental crap and get on with it already? Kiba's remark was joined by the agreement of many academy students. Iruka was downtrodden. I worked all night on that speech. He sulked before doing exactly what the students wanted. Alright, since some, if not all of you are eager, he sent a glare at the students. I guess I'll start with the rules. No cheating, no peeking, and you have 2 hours to finish the written test. Once you're done, raise your hand and I or another teacher will pick it up for you. One by one, the students were each given a sheet of stapled paper that was rested on its back. When the last student was given the test, Iruka declared they were to begin, and then began writing. As time passed by, Naruto wasn't surprised to see that Sakura ended up finishing the test first, and in record time with less than an hour. Followed soon by Sasuke, Ino, Shino, Hinata, and Shikamaru several minutes later. Naruto himself managed to finish the test with 11 minutes to spare. Guess I won't be setting a record for this portion. Naruto had his doubts. Written tests had never been his forte. Even after a great deal of studying and improvement, the highest mark he had ever gotten in them was 71%. Some questions were obvious, such as naming the 5 primary elemental releases and their weakness, and who was the founder of the academy. Others, such as past battles during the era of warring states, shinobi world wars, and the answer to an algebraic formula, weren't as easy. Some questions actually didn't make any sense, or made him wonder what it had to do with the ninja way of life, and how it was going to help him become a ninja in the first place. Either way, he couldn't complain about it now, and the boy could only wait for the result. Having some time to kill, Naruto took a page out Shikamaru's book and took a brief nap. 11 minutes later, the boy was woken up from his rest by the sound of Iruka shouting, "Time!" effectively bringing the blonde out of the land of dreams. And wasn't the least bit surprised by the message that greeted him. Set exam record, failed. Set academy record, failed. The 2 hours are up. Place your pencils down and stop writing on your test. The results will be posted later, and then we will move on to the next portion of the examination. Please follow Mizuki-sensei and Suzume-sensei to the designated area where the physical portion will take place. One by one, the students left the classroom and waited in the area that they were brought to. Deciding to continue his nap, Naruto laid down on the grass and was joined by Hadamaru. When 40-odd minutes had passed, the boy got up, and as he began looking around, Naruto saw that many had a look of worry on their face. The boy ignored them and focused his attention on the training area they had. It was basic, really. Several targets were set up, a combat ring was in place, and something that looked like an obstacle course. If this is all that's needed to pass the physical portion, then this will be a piece of cake. Naruto grinned. What's with the grin, Dobe? Naruto heard Kiba ask him. Just thinking how easy this is gonna be. Dog breath, Naruto said. Kiba frowned but remained silent. The Inuzuka heir was boastful, arrogant, and not the sharpest tool in the shed, but he wasn't the dumbest of individuals. The boy knew that Naruto was stronger, faster, and smarter than what he used to be if the thrashing Kiba got from him during the fight several weeks ago. Since then, Kiba had been improving, but even then the feral boy still couldn't match Naruto in terms of skill taijutsu anymore. Naruto always came out on top now, having only come to close to losing to Sasuke once, but won in the end. How the hell did he get so strong? Kiba wondered. Had it been Sasuke, he wouldn't have thought much of it, as the Uchiha had always been hailed as a prodigy. The same couldn't be said for Naruto. Alright everyone, gather round, Iruka began. By now, some of you will have already figured out what the next portion of the exam will consist of. This portion of the exam will consist of 3 parts. Here we will test your accuracy, your speed and dexterity, as well as your physical strength and endurance. Soon, the students were split into 3 groups of 20 students each and 2 teachers. Each group was being tested on a certain course, and when the groups were done some 20 minutes later, they would switch to another course. Uzumaki. Naruto, Suzume announced as she presented the boy with a set of kunai, shuriken, and a piece of paper. Your score during the written test was 69%. Some who knew Naruto or heard of him laughed at that remark. Others, however, not as much, as they knew that the old Naruto would have either passed by the skin of his nose or failed brilliantly. It wasn't the greatest mark, but it was a hell of a lot better than what it could have been. Picking up the kunai lazily, Naruto glanced at the targets. The test was similar to the one from before, with the only difference being that they were much further, and had a smaller target painted on them. For some it would make them worry. For Naruto and his experience in dungeons, it was nothing. Twirling the kunai in his hands, the metal weapons soon became a blur as he launched them at the stationary wooden posts. Each bladed weapon either pierced right through them at the center of the bull's eye, or was buried up to the hilt. The same followed when he used the shuriken. Suzume was surprised, but the woman composed herself as she gave him a perfect mark for the accuracy portion. The woman had only taught Naruto during his first 2 years and hadn't been impressed by the boy. Unlike others, the woman didn't care about the QB inside him, but still didn't like the boy's attitude and mannerisms. She thought him to be a slacker and a mockery of what shinobi should be, and thought he had little hopes of passing or becoming a ninja. To see him do what he just did, and from the looks of it he wasn't even trying, shocked the woman. Set exam record, failed. Set academy record, failed. Naruto frowned, but then remembered that the special note from the quest, saying it would be deemed an automatic fail if someone else already achieved the highest result before him, or if they accomplished it more quickly. It wasn't that big of a loss anyway. Bored? Naruto honestly thought there would be more to it than this. Even if it involved a moving target, it would have been more interesting or challenging. Not by much really, as it would still be easy, but a slight challenge was better than no challenge. When his group moved on to the obstacle course, Naruto yawned. When he was younger, he had attempted this very course and had gotten hurt in the process. The incident involved a busted lip and bloody nose. But the worst of it all was meeting the dreaded witch doctor of the Konoha hospital, Dr. Kureha. Naruto was fairly certain she was the cause of his fear of hospitals. Naruto was certain others would have the misfortune of meeting the witch after this course. Naruto wasn't one of them. Having experienced the mountains and cliffs, that lightning dungeon and their precarious positions, what he saw didn't impress him. Even Anko and Midori had made him run through much more dangerous obstacles, mainly them and some very inventive traps compared to this puny little thing. Alright everyone, you each have exactly 1 minute and 30 seconds to reach the end of the obstacle course. If you get hit by some of the obstacles that are meant to slow you down, it will result in a second being added to your time. If the amount of time gone by is over the allotted period, you fail and receive a 0 for this portion of the exam. Many gulped and began to worry. Naruto saw it for what it was, another test. Anko had told him that ninja were often tested to see how well they could do under pressure and the stress it brought on. The students and teachers watched as one student went after the other, some of which passed well or by the skin of their nose, while others failed or were struck and or knocked out by the obstacles they were meant to dodge. Once it was his turn, Naruto took his position, breathed, and when the teacher shouted, "Go!" he took off like a shot. The boy ran across the field where blunt shuriken and kunai were being thrown, catching a blunt kunai and using it to deflect the other wooden object that came his way. Next, he crawled underneath barbed wire and was forced to crawl a good 20-odd feet without getting his uniform snagged. Once that was done, Naruto had to run along the length of a tight rope while bobbing and weaving from large swinging stumps of wood that wanted to knock him on his ass. Once that was done and over with, the blonde then had to climb up a rock wall, climb down, and then sprint to the finish line. However, thanks to the adrenaline that was currently pumping through him, Naruto subconsciously began to run up the rock face using only his feet, much to the astonishment of the academy students and teachers. "What the hell?" was the collective thought of many as they saw Naruto run up the obstacle, his momentum not slowing down as he did. The blonde then kicked himself off the top of the obstacle, hit the ground, and continued to run towards the finish line before he finally crossed it. The moment he crossed over did Iruka become even more surprised as he saw the time on the stopwatch. Set exam record, achieved. Set academy record, failed. 43.69 seconds. Iruka could only marvel. Naruto's time was currently the best of his year at the moment, beating even Sasuke's 56.12. It wasn't the best in the academy history, though. The school record being 32.87 seconds that had been set by the Yondam Hokage when he was a student, and the only ones that came close to breaking the record had been Uchiha Itachi and Hatake Kakashi. Once more, many were left speechless at the fact that the former dead last had improved so well. Some had come to acknowledge that Naruto had indeed improved, while others still clung to the notion that he was a loser who was merely going through a lucky streak. As the last of the students finished up, Naruto's group moved to their final physical examination. "Alright everyone, the goal with this exam is simple. You are going to be facing off against one of the teachers, and you are meant to last at least 1 minute, and try to land a punch if possible. If you get pushed out of the circle or don't last it before a minute passes, you fail," Iruka explained. Excusing himself to go use the washroom, Naruto took a classic page out of the Shinobi Handbook and cheated by powering himself up with Ninpo. Guriki, ninja art, hard strength, as it gave off no signature or flare of energy. And, as far as others were concerned, his newfound strength was nothing more than pure muscle power. Technically, it was true, as the technique basically made the muscles in his body stronger. When the students were about to begin with their testing, Naruto willingly volunteered to go first as he faced off against Daikoku Funeno. Naruto recalled the man when he first entered the academy. He was kind and fair, but expected effort from his students in everything they did. Daikoku was relatively slimmer during Naruto's first year at the academy, but now the man was bigger, nowhere as big as an Akimichi. But it was evident he had put on some weight since the last time he saw the brown-haired Chunin. "Ready, begin." Daikoku began to circle Naruto and performed a few mock lunges to throw the boy off and lose his balance. Having been taught by 3 mentors who literally pounded into his head to recognize body language, even if it wasn't perfect, Naruto saw through the act quickly. When Daikoku realized that Naruto wasn't going to fall for his tricks, the man came in and threw a few punches that, while fast, would still allow a potential graduate-level ninja to dodge and evade. What the man didn't count on was Naruto grabbing the outstretched appendage and pull with all his might. Daikoku was caught off guard by the move, and the man soon found himself launched out of the ring, and a great deal away from the group. The act was unexpected but not dangerous or life-threatening, as the man flipped and righted himself in the air, before he landed in a crouch. Exam record achieved. Academy record failed. "What just happened?" Daikoku asked, but was met with silence. The man had been pulling back true to give the students a fighting chance, but even then he had not expected an academy student to demonstrate such physical strength. Aside from Itachi years back when Daikoku was younger, no one else ever did. Part of him wondered if the QB played a factor in improving Naruto's physical prowess. Was all Iruka could say, as his mind tried to process what had happened. "I think that's my win, Iruka-sensei," Naruto said before he left the ring, and a group of flabbergasted individuals. It went without saying that Naruto had easily dominated this portion of the exam. The boy was truly bored and disappointed with the exam, really. When he had done these tests before, they were a challenge. Now not so much thanks to his powered-up skills and stats. Though Naruto also knew that had Daikaku been serious from the start, and not underestimated Naruto's strength, the match wouldn't have been quite as easy. His chances of winning would have been lower, but Naruto liked to think that he most likely would have still won the match despite the added difficulty. As the last student finished, the groups took lunch. Not wanting to be bothered by some of the students that would most likely ask him some questions, the blonde Jinchuriki grabbed his ninkin and moved to a more secluded location. Taking out a couple pieces of roasted boar meat, one for himself and the other for his partner, both males began eating in peace. Did you hear? Naruto stopped munching on his lunch as he overheard the chatter below him. The boy spotted what appeared to be a couple of Chunin instructors based on their attire. From their appearance, Naruto speculated that they were new ones too. Here, what? The man asked in a bored tone. Heard the Uzumaki brat dominated the physical part of the exam, and get this. He beat Daikoku. The man's words made his companion choke. Bullshit! You serious? He asked. Uzumaki Naruto, the dead last and overall terror of the village, defeated a Chunin, granted. Daikaku was an academy instructor, so he wasn't the strongest of Chunin Konoha had to offer, but to lose to an academy student. Very same, his companion added with a grin. Kid just went and grabbed Daikaku and tossed away like yesterday's garbage. How the hell did that happen? The kid's the dead last, the bottom of the barrel, a loser, Naruto scowled, and made a mental note to prank the man's ass when he got the chance. You sure it was Uzumaki? Course, I'm sure. What other kid in Konoha has whisker marks on their face 24/7? His companion conceded to that fair point. The boy is the only one who had them. After that happened, Daikoku didn't go as easy on the rest of them. Over a third of them failed to last a minute, and more of them left with a few bruises. Poor brats. You think this has anything to do with? The man never finished the sentence as his companion covered his mouth. You idiot, you want to get us both in trouble. The man's reprimand was harsh. You know the law. We can't speak about it in public. Last person who did wasn't seen again. The man paled and glanced around to see if anyone was nearby. When he spotted no one, he breathed a sigh of relief. Unknown to both idiots, the person in question had heard every single word, but couldn't make sense of it. What law are they talking about? Naruto wondered why a law involved him. The boy cursed as he was drawn away from his thought when he heard the school bell announcing the end of their lunch break. Finishing up his meal, Naruto grabbed his ninkin and used Hayagaki to make his way towards the academy entrance. Entering the classroom, which was now just starting to fill up with various students, Naruto took his seat and waited for the teachers to come in and begin the final portion of the exam. The wait wasn't long as both Mizuki and Iruka entered with a table full of Konoha forehead protectors. This is it, the final portion of the graduation ceremony. Many of you have done very well, and you've all worked very hard to get here. I couldn't be more proud, the man's comment made many smile. Now, before you become genin, all of you need to show us that you're capable of performing the Academy 3 ninjutsu. Do so and you pass. Fail and you will need to wait until the next graduation ceremony for your chance at becoming a genin. Who the fuck came up with this? It was bogus and flawed as hell in Naruto's mind, and Anko would agree. Even if a person did well in the other portions, it would be for nothing if they were unable to perform one of the necessary ninjutsu required to pass. It didn't make any sense. One by one, the students were called up to perform the basic Academy 3. Much like the other portions, some did very well, others not so much, but it was decent enough to pass, while others he saw would be forced to stay another year. Naruto rolled his eyes and groaned as he saw Sasuke's fangirls go crazy as the Uchiha performed the required techniques flawlessly. When the raven-haired boy received his forehead protector, he smirked, an act that made his fangirls swoon. Uzumaki, Naruto. Now or never, Naruto muttered as he stood in front of the 2 academy teachers. The boy felt the eyes of almost everyone being focused on him. Perform the henge, Iruka ordered. Naruto smirked as his body was covered head to toe in a white cloud. Both Chunin blinked as the smoke cleared, and the men's eyes, along with many males, nearly popped out of their skulls as they saw the voluptuous and nude form of one Mitarashi Anko. "Do I pass?" Anko asked with a wink, and as she pressed her breasts together. The effect from the maneuver was instantaneous. Virtually every male in the classroom, except a napping Shikamaru, were propelled backwards by a flood of blood expelling from his nose. Canceling the henge, Naruto cackled at the reaction, while many of the females in the classroom looked ready to tear him a new one. "Naruto!" Iruka bellowed at his student. "What the hell was that?" the man asked. "Huh, Anko," he said as though it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Took me some time to get it down, too. Couldn't really get the breasts right till I saw them," he added. "That's not what I was." The man blinked as he processed what was said. "Wait, what was that last bit?" "Her breasts," was the casual response, with many of females in the class cracking their knuckles and given the blonde looks that would have killed him 10 times over. "Well, technically she showed them when she got tired of me getting the size wrong." The answer caused Iruka's jaw, along with several others, to fall to the floor with a resounding thud. Kiba was banging his head on the desk, ranting on how unfair it was, while many females of the class were in disbelief. Hinata was passed out on the floor. Her face flushed a deep crimson. Iruka didn't know whether to reprimand or congratulate his student on seeing two things few men saw, or only dreamed of seeing, and willingly, too. Then again, it was Anko they were talking about after all. Right. Moving on, perform the kawarimi with that chair and back again. The boy groaned as he would have loved to mess with Iruka's head some more, but performed the technique as requested with no trouble. When he was done, Iruka made a few notes on a piece of paper. Very nice. Now perform the bunshin and make at least 2 perfect copies of yourself. Crossing his fingers, Naruto focused as much as possible before he performed the shadow clone technique. In a second, there were 9 other Naruto in front of both stunned academy instructors. "You only needed to make 2, Naruto." Iruka chuckled as he inspected the clones for any faults. When he found none, Iruka told his student to cancel technique. Just as he was about to congratulate his student on passing, the man thought he spotted something on the floor as the clones disappeared. In this case, a shadow. Bunshins don't have shadows. The brow on Iruka's head furrowed for a second before he shook his head and passed it off, as his mind playing tricks on him. It had been a long day, so it was very possible. Congratulations, Naruto. Quest completed. Academy, graduation. Main quest, graduate from the academy and don't become dead last, accomplished. Side quest, graduate as mid-ranking student, accomplished. Secondary side quest, set record in exam portions, 2-7, accomplished. Third side quest, set academy record in exam portions, 2-7, accomplished. Total rewards earned: 7,017.50 10%, AQ 8, 525, XP 450. Reputations towards various individuals, Genjin rank acquired, 2 AP. Congratulations! You've gained the job Jujinin. As a result, you can now undertake even more missions in Konoha and also gain the title E-Beginner Ninja. Beginner Ninja title replaces Academy Student title. 15% additional XP towards completed quests and enemies slain. Gain 10 AP per year as a genin. Warning: being demoted or stripped of your rank will result in you losing your title. Academy graduate. Challenge: pass the academy exams, achieve. Reward: 1000 XP. Konoha Hitayate, common quality. Item type: head armor. Durability: 40/40. Metal headband engraved with the kanji for fire. symbolizing the wearer's status as a Konoha shinobi. Forehead protectors are worn by shinobi and are engraved with the symbol of their hidden village to demonstrate their allegiance. Be forewarned, wearing this makes you stand out against enemies of Konoha. Bonus. Perks. 5DF, 10% additional rep per successful mission with Konoha. Must be loyal. Flaws. Will cause aggro effect if spotted by enemies of Konoha. Congratulations, your level has increased by 1. Status window. Name: Uzumaki. Naruto. Job: Academy student. Level: 24, next level. 0.7%, 100%. HP: 8,533. Y350O perks. HG L9. 327.150. CP: 14,850 or 625. Out2 perks, Utang Turks. 17,022.5. Starry: 64. Vit: 271 Tintent 2A, 2 81. End: 364, E15, Qchel Tui. Poi. Dex: 71 1D2, 72. Int: 49. Wis: 27. Cha: 16. Look: Def: 25. Attribute points: 16T, 2 18 tune. Ordinary perk points: 1. Special perk points: 1. Yada! Naruto cheered. Best day ever! Iruka just smiled as he handed over the boy's forehead protector. Opposite to the Chunin, Mizuki himself congratulated the boy, but inwardly the man was livid and worried that the demon had indeed passed. Excusing himself momentarily, to which Iruka said he'd manage on his own, Mizuki left for the hallway and fumed. God fucking damn it! The man realized that the informant was right. Loathed as he wanted to acknowledge it, the demon had gotten better. And now it had passed. Who knows how they'd react? Now I have no choice but to go with Plan B. While not his first choice or how he wanted it, the man was left with no other option. However, Mizuki hadn't really planned out for a contingency. I'm sorry, Hibachi. Mizuki heard Iruka from the hallway. While your Kawarimi and Bunshin are decent, your Henge's not up to par. I'm afraid you will have to stay another year. The boy shook with rage and defiance. Tears threatened to spill from the side of his eyes, and quite a few knew the boy wanted to lash out. However, a stern look from Iruka put a stop to the idea, and Hibachi ran out of the classroom and bumped into Mizuki. The boy didn't bother to excuse himself and kept on going. In his anger, the boy didn't see the malicious look in the traitor's face. The man just found his patsy. Sometime later, late at night. Tough break, Gaki. Naruto heard Anko's voice from behind him. You gave it your best, roar. What the hell are you talking about? I passed, Naruto told her. You did. She shifted her eyes to his head that had no forehead protector. You sure about that? Naruto saw her gaze and immediately understood her skepticism. Oh, right. I don't have it on me at the moment. Ask Iruka-sensei if you will. That's my Gaki. Anko never let him finish his sentence. The woman cheered as she gave her ward a bone-crushing hug, tearing the boy away from his beloved Ichiraku ramen. Naruto knew that if the hug wasn't going to kill him, then having his lungs being deprived of oxygen thanks to her ample assets firmly pressed up against his face would have been a hell of a way to go, were his thoughts on the matter, his face still buried in soft breasts. Personally, he would have preferred going out on the battlefield doing something kick-ass or awesome, but this was good, too. Lucky kid, Tucci envied his favorite customer at the moment. So, how'd it go? Boring as hell. Just by seeing the look on Naruto's face, the woman got her answer. Never mind. Sorry I wasn't there to congratulate you, Gaki. Had to do some last-minute work that only my sexy-ass self could do. Torture? Squealed like a stuck piggy. Was kinda boring. Actually, Anko made a mental note to get Naruto to prank. Ibiki's ass for that, where's your headband anyway? Bumped into Tetsu, and when he saw it, he offered to turn my hit-8 into a Hapuri-style one as a graduation present. Naruto originally didn't think much about it, but through the use of Observe he discovered that a Hapuri forehead protector would increase its defense by an additional 5. Speaking of graduation presents, here Anko presented the boy with a gift box, meant to give it you earlier, but you know. Pleasantly surprised, Naruto tore into the wrapping like wolves did into their meal. Taking the lid off, Naruto's eyes deadpanned as he saw a scroll. This is gonna be one of those types of gifts, huh? The boy asked, but already knew the answer. Well, it certainly befitted Anko's personality. Taking the scroll, Naruto unfurled it and channeled some chakra into the ceiling matrix. A poof of cloud later, and the boy saw a new set of armor. Technically, it's a gift from me, Hayate, and Yugao, but those two are off on duty, so they asked me to send you their best. Combat. Ninja Tunic, uncommon quality. Item type. Upper body armor. Durability. 70/70.
Protective upper body armor made from specially treated leather and used by ninja during combat, or when performing physical exercises. Despite its common base appearance, it is deceptively durable.
Buffs. Perks. 10 DF. Fuinjutsu slot. 1 major slot. Set. Completion. First bonus. 1-3. Lock. Set. Completion. Second bonus. 1-5. Lock. Combat. Ninja pants. Uncommon quality. Item type. Lower body armor. Durability. 70/70. Protective lower body armor made from specially treated leather and used by ninja during combat or when performing physical exercises. Despite its common base appearance, it is deceptively durable. Buffs. Perks. 10 DF. Fuinjutsu slot. 1 minor slot. Set. Completion. First bonus. 1-3. Lock. Set. Completion. Second bonus. 1-5. Lock. Combat. Ninja gloves. Uncommon quality. Item type. Hand armor. Durability. 55/55. Protective hand armor made from specially treated leather and used by ninja during combat. The material used in these gloves offers a decent amount of protection and allows for one to strike harder. Buffs. Perks. 70F. 3% power increase towards Yu Taijutsu. Set. Completion. First bonus. 1-3. Lock. Set. Completion. Second bonus. 1-5. Lock. Combat. Ninja boots. Uncommon quality. Item type. Foot armor. Durability. 55/55. Protective foot armor made from specially treated leather and used by ninja during combat. The small amount of metal added to it not only increases its overall defense, but also slightly increases the strength behind one's kicks. Buffs. Perks. 90F. 3% power increase towards Yu Taijutsu. Set. Completion. First bonus. 1-3. Lock. Set. Completion. Second bonus. 1-5. Lock. Combat. Ninja utility belt. Uncommon quality. Item type. Waist armor. Durability. 40/40. Protective waist armor made from specially treated leather and used by ninja during combat. Can also used to hold pouches of kunai or shuriken. Buffs. Perks. 5DF. 3% power and speed increase towards a ninja tools. Set. Completion. First bonus. 1-3. Lock. Set. Completion. Second bonus. 1-5. Lock.
Combat Ninja set complete, first bonus 5/3.
15%. Increase in effectiveness, power and X towards C-rank skills and lower out. Combat Ninja set complete, second bonus 5-5 IV. 5%. Increase towards all sure resistances and tolerances, 5% increase towards HP and CP. Regan when in allied territory. I love you guys, Naruto whispered, but was heard by Anko, Midori, Tucci, and Ayame. All four individuals smiled at the heartfelt compliment. Few had ever given him such gifts. The only real gifts he ever got had been Gamashan from an anonymous individual. Aw, love you too, Gaki. Naruto found himself pulled into the woman's bosom once again. The boy heard Tucci snicker lecherously before his daughter whacked him over the head with a ladle. After finishing his ramen, Naruto decided to leave to go and try out his new outfit. Having been offered free ramen, not that she cared all that much for the stuff, Anko stayed for a while as she made idle chat with the sous chef of the ramen stand. She was pretty enough. So, the kid really did eat here almost 24/7. Anko thought it had been an exaggeration, but to actually hear it. Unfortunately, Ayame nodded. I love Naruto-kun. He's like the little brother I never had, but his diet was terrible. But because many treated or turned him away, he usually only came here to eat or bought instant ramen. Ayame had made sure the boy ate his vegetables whenever she could, but boys will be boys, as the saying went. Yeesh, Anko winced. Even if a shinobi burned more calories and fat faster than others, they still needed the nutrients to properly fuel their bodies. Ramen afforded a lot of carbs needed for energy, but it was ridiculously high in other substances that went way above the recommended daily intake. Fruits, veggies, and meat, not swimming in sauces or seasoned to hell, was especially important for children when their bodies needed those nutrients for a healthy growth. Eating mostly ramen wasn't going to that, and would be detrimental. No wonder Naruto was small at the time, even for his age, such as small stature was highly uncommon. Sure, it meant he'd be harder to hit due to his small stature, but that meant squat against seasoned and experienced ninja who could hit targets the size of pea from very far away. Luckily, Naruto's new diet helped him grow a few inches in the last 4 months. He wasn't the tallest genin, but wasn't the smallest anymore either. Just as she was about to call it a night, Anko spotted several chunin jumping and running around like mad. Spotting Iruka amongst them, Anko grabbed his attention. Hey, Umio, what's going on? His words would leave her speechless. Naruto's stolen the scroll of seals. What? Chapter 13. Never simple. Did you get it? Mizuki asked. Yeah, I got it. Even got them to think it was Naruto, Hibachi said with pride. Mizuki eyed the foolish boy and couldn't help himself from mentally scoffing. Hibachi was bad at the henge in terms of the physical transformation's appearance, but pretty good at voice, mimicry, and mannerism. But the Chunin had to hand it to him. The boy knew how to improvise. A wig, bright orange clothes, and some makeup had him looking almost like Naruto. Up close, it would be clearly noticeable that it wasn't him, but from behind and at a distance, one would believe it was Konoha's notorious prankster. So, do I pass now? Yeah, you did good, Hibachi, Mizuki smiled. It wasn't friendly. A shing and a shlunk later, and the forest was soon greeted with the sound of a young boy gagging, followed by some gurgling, and a thud as his body hit the ground. Stupid kid. Wish you were the demon, but I had to work with what I got. Thanks for the scroll. And with that, Mizuki quickly set the body aflame and left the scene and Konoha. Wenti. Anko was silent as her mind processed what she had been told, and then just as quickly bellowed so loudly that Iruka believed she could be heard from Suna. What the fuck do you mean he stole the scroll of seals? Iruka winced but answered all the same. Like I said, Naruto stole the scroll of seals. We have eyewitnesses seeing Naruto jump from the rooftops carrying a large cylindrical object on his back. No one thought much of it at first because we thought he was pranking someone, but then 20 minutes later, the alarm goes off and many are being told to find him since he stole it. He informed the woman.
Anko frowned and gnashed her teeth as she processed the situation. None of this was making sense. Yumino, you and I know Naruto's a prankster, and slow at times, but why would he want to steal the scroll of seals? The kid just became a genin. Can you honestly say he'd risk that over a prank?
Iruka wanted to answer but stopped and collected his thoughts. Naruto certainly loved pranking others, and more than once he had been caught defacing the face on the Hawkage Mountain. But much of that had simmered down in the last few months, and his pranks were usually performed because of a desire for attention, or when he was depressed, or if someone wronged him. Eyes wide as his mind finally pieced it all together. Iruka paled. Oh no! This is a diversion. Naruto's being used as a scapegoat while the real culprit probably long gone by now. No shit, Anko finished for him. You honestly think a newly graduated academy student could pull a fast one on the Ambu? Naruto couldn't even do that even before he graduated, and this was one of Kano's most important articles. Do you have any idea where he could be? Iruka asked her. The Chunin considered himself a talented censor. Not the best, but not the worst either. But even his sensing abilities had its limits. Luckily, the amount of time he spent chasing and finding Naruto over the years during one of his pranks made it so Iruka knew the feel of the boy's chakra signature instantly. But that was within a certain radius, and Naruto could be anywhere in village and its surrounding area. A few, but not enough time to search him one at a time. Midori. Sliding out from her trench coat, Anko gave her familiar the quick rundown. We need to find Naruto before anyone else does, and fast! While some ninja would follow protocol and capture the boy, neither ninja were blind or dumb enough to know that some were clouded by their emotions. Accidents could happen, as some would say. On it! Her sense is many times greater than either human. Midori was quick to pick up Naruto's most recent trail in a matter of seconds before he managed to find a trace of Naruto's chakra. Found it! Anko and Iruka ignored the terrified screams and shouts as they followed the swiftly moving green serpent, making its way through the nightly crowd. Both Shinobi and Kunoichi made haste to try and find the blonde Uzumaki. Hoping to get there before anything bad happened to the young boy Gaki. You'd better be okay. Wenchi. You're here. The adolescent was briefly surprised by the sight of the other two. Ninja. But he quickly brushed the unexpected event aside. Even a blind chicken could get a kernel every now and then, Kabuto noted. Was there any doubt? Mizuki's smirk didn't last long. Much, was the spectacled ninja's reply. Miracles aside, you succeeded? Any loose ends? None. We're in this for the long haul. Eh, Tsubaki? Mizuki asked his lover. The woman hesitated for a bit, but nodded nonetheless. Hi? Good. Go to the border between here and Oto, no Kuni. You'll get further instructions then. Dismissed. Both nodded and left nothing more than whirling leaves and dust as they disappeared from sight. I can't believe that disgrace of a ninja actually managed to pull it off. The informant told Orochimaru's right-hand man and second-in-command. Luck was on his side apparently. Both knew it had nothing to do with skill. Any loose ends? None. Even if I do nothing, it'll be a while before the village suspects anything. Kabuto believed them. The informant was good at that. And the scroll? Here the informant scoffed. You and I both know this scroll is nothing more than a decoy. A few things here and there, but no true noteworthy techniques. And a big surprise at the end, Kabuto shrugged. It was expected. Getting the real scroll had been a long shot anyway. He knew it. The informant knew it. And even Orochimaru knew it. Only Mizuki had been foolish enough to believe he actually acquired the real one. Konoha has become lax compared to years ago, and thanks to our manipulations, the newest generations are weaker and ill-prepared for what's to come. But they are still one of the Great Five for a reason, the informant added. True, Kabuto would not dispute that fact. As it was, Konoha was currently ranked second in terms of military might among the Great Five. The village was outranked only by Kumo because they had not demilitarized like many of the other villages after the last Great Shinobi World War, an act that caused tension between the other villages. One of the reasons why Kumo was stronger in terms of strength was because while Kumo used to have quality and quantity, the quality of their ninja had risen significantly because of the new Raikage, partially as a result of his father's death in the last war. But even then, Konoha was the more popular of the Great Five, having won more wars, battles, having 4 of the 10 strongest clans from the era of warring states, and having a greater reputation than the others. Therefore, the village hidden in the tree leaves easily had much more high-paying clients than Kumo did. But there remains a problem. The Jinchuriki. Kabuto guessed correctly. Mizuki wanted him for his scapegoat. When the boy passed, he had to improvise. I saw his performance during the exams. If we're discounting academics for all intended purposes, the kid's the real rookie of the year. Kabuto frowned. That could potentially upset things down the line. Continue on with the plan, but lay low for the next little bit before continuing to gather as much information as you can. As it is, Konoha knows that an enemy informant was in the village thanks to the scroll. Kabuto saw the informant nod. And the Jinchuriki. Seeing Kabuto eyeing the scroll in their hands, the informant got the idea and disappeared. But even with the order, Kabuto knew all too well it wouldn't stick. It didn't mean it wouldn't make things easy for the boy for the next little while. Would it cause him to finally leave the village? Who knows? Either way, hampering his growth and straining his loyalties to the village had to be done. A few months ago, the boy was a shoo-in for the title of dead last. Now he was a recent graduate and former low-middle-ranking student who somehow managed to defeat his master's target. That kind of growth was both fascinating as it was worrying. Sometime later, I didn't do it. Naruto lost count of how many times he said it in the last 20 minutes. Were they honestly expecting him to change his answer? This was bullshit. Then where were you last night? A blank-faced Anbu asked him. With your mama. Naruto didn't care if it was unbecoming or immature. He was pissed and tired. In another room, Hiruzen frowned. The elderly Hokage honestly didn't want to do this, but given the circumstances, his hands were tied. The scroll was found in Naruto's apartment, though the newly made genin hadn't been there, and dozens of Anbu, and a body burned beyond recognition, were found dead. It would take some time to find out who Hiruzen knew Naruto was innocent, and so did many of the more level-headed of his forces, even the ones that were indifferent or not fond of the boy. It was obvious that this was a setup, but many more were letting their feelings cloud their judgment. Being unable to locate Naruto for over 2 hours, and him not telling them where he was played against him. A slap on the wrist or simply declaring him innocent wasn't going to cut it. Him being processed was more so for the boy's safety than anything else. The Jijaku no Jutsu, time reversal technique, not working was another setback, and only added more questions. Is it the Kyuubi's doing? Had been the unsaid question. If that was the case, then Hiruzen made a mental note to call Jiraiya back to inspect the seal. If it was compromised or if Naruto had unknowingly made a deal with the Kyuubi in exchange for power. Hiruzen of all individuals knew that even the most stalwart characters had their moments of weakness they'd come to regret. Then perhaps it could explain a lot of things, such as his astronomical growth in such a short amount of time. Trained by Jonin and intense dedication, or not, Naruto's growth was too sudden and too quick to be natural. Out of the fucking way before I shove your head up his ass. Not helping, Anko. Speaking of which, let them in, Hiruzen commanded, and the door opened with a resounding wham. No offense, Hokage-sama, but what the fuck? We both know Naruto's innocent. Anko! Her friend chastised. Of stealing the scroll of seals, I know Naruto is innocent. The scroll that had been stolen was a fake, a decoy. But apparently the thief already knew that given its safety feature never went off, and they decided to plant it in Naruto's apartment. But with his disappearance during that time not going unnoticed, I've been left with little recourse. Oh! Until Naruto tells us where he was for the last hour, and can show me proof that I go with, I can't do anything. And unfortunately, Naruto isn't exactly helping himself. Have you talked to him? I was just about to before you arrived, he informed her. The only reason he hadn't at first was because he didn't want anyone to potentially use that against them. Looking at him and then back to her future genin, Anko said, "Let me talk to him." Hiruzen fought the urge to rub his eyes. "Anko, just give me 1 minute with the kid, please," the young woman pleaded. Looking her in the eye, Hiruzen sighed. 1 minute? One? Anko thanked him as the village leader called off the Ambu in the room and allowed her access to her ward. The Sandame watched as she entered and told the other 2 ninja occupying the small space to piss off. What was said went unheard by the man, but he hoped she could get through to him. "You gotta tell him, Naruto." Anko's tone was serious, and the lack of her affectionate nickname for him told him she wasn't playing games. "What? You want me to show him what I can do too?" he asked sarcastically. "You'll likely have to do that as well." The look of disbelief pretty much stamped itself on the blonde's face. "Kid, I don't see any other way around it. You were gone for an hour. Pretty much all of Konoha was looking for you. And we found dead bodies. Now, you might not have taken the scroll, but an argument can potentially be made that you were still involved in some way." "Seriously? How the hell can they come up with that?" he asked. "It wouldn't be the first time something similar to this happened in the history of hidden villages," she revealed. "Look, Naruto, it's up to you. But if you don't work with me here, I don't know what's gonna happen. I know you have an alibi, but if you don't show it to Hokage-sama, you might force the old man to do something he doesn't want to do if it means keeping the peace." Naruto frowned and gritted his teeth, and in his anger he slammed his hands down on the table. "This isn't how I wanted him to know." "I know, Gaki." Naruto had every intention of telling Hiruzen about it when he was ready. Not doing it on his own terms was very upsetting for the blonde, but you and I both know we sometimes don't always get we want. Naruto nodded, and Anko left the room to get her leader. "He'll talk, but only to you, Hokage-sama." Hiruzen nodded, and with a look he dismissed his Ambu and entered the room. Taking a seat across from his surrogate grandson, Hiruzen looked him in the eye, but Naruto spoke first. "I'll tell you what you want to know. But I want to know something first." Hiruzen frowned, and Anko had to admit that Naruto had balls for pulling that stunt. "And that is," the Sandime humored him. "Is it true what they said about me?" Blinking in confusion, Hiruzen asked, "What did they call you?" Demon," Naruto elaborated. "I'm gonna fucking kill him." Countless ways of doing so and making it look like an accident played in Anko's mind. "Naruto?" "I'm not stupid," Naruto shouted. "All my life I've been hated. People see me as something to be avoided. Some were even scared. Not once has anyone ever called me a demon before. And tonight, I lost count of how many times I was looked at with scorn and the amount of times I heard them call me that. And I want to know why." Hiruzen sighed. "Naruto, it's not that simple." "Then simplify it. Tell me and I'll sing like a canary." "Don't, and you'll get nothing from me. Even if it means I don't become a genin. I'll find out one way or another. I'll become Hokage even if I don't become a ninja." Hiruzen knew Naruto was speaking the truth. The look of utter resolution in his eyes, reminding him of the same ones borne by the Hokages that came before, and the one that succeeded him. Sighing, Hiruzen knew he had no choice. Naruto had regrettably inherited his mother's infamous Uzumaki stubbornness. Better the boy learn it from him instead of putting the pieces together and souring their relationship. He was too fond of Minato and Kushina's son to do so. "I wanted to tell you when you were older, but you deserve to know." To begin, we have to go back 13 years ago, where, as you already know, the greatest of the nine-tailed beasts attacked Konoha without warning. Naruto frowned. Yeah, and then the Yondaime Hokish faced it himself and defeated it at the cost of his life. Right? Shush, Anko told him. That's the story your generations knows about. The truth is a little more complex. The Kyuubi was the most powerful of the nine-tailed beasts, its power earning it the traveling calamity epithet over the last 2 millennia. Countries fell before its might and natural disasters followed like a plague. We lost count of how many died that night, and the nights that followed. Powerful as he was, the Yondaime was no match for the even more powerful demon. Killing a Biju is said to be close to impossible, and even then it's merely a temporary reprieve. And the more powerful the beast is, the more impossible the task becomes. Minato had no alternative but to seal the beast inside a newborn infant. Regrettably, you were that infant, Naruto. And instead of seeing you as the savior of Konoha for holding the Biju inside you like the Yondaime wanted, you were seen as a monster instead. Floored by the revelation, Naruto looked at Anko, who looked straight back. You knew? I did, was all she said. Why didn't you tell me? She wasn't allowed, Naruto, Hiruzen interjected. Nobody in the village was allowed to talk about it, and those who did were punished severely. Why? Why what? Why me? What wasn't anyone allowed to talk about it? Naruto elaborated before he whispered, Why was I hated? Honestly, I don't know, Naruto. Hiruzen hated to lie to the boy, but thought it was best at the moment. He didn't want to overwhelm the boy with too much too soon. As for why they hated you, I'm afraid I'm partially to blame. I foolishly believed in Minato's words, and it resulted in the village despising you instead. The people were suffering, confused, and angry, and unfortunately channeled all those wayward emotions unjustly onto you. Yuinjutsu, as you know, is an uncommon and very abstruse skill that few know about. To them, the thought of sealing a being of such vast power is inconceivable. So instead they began to think the Kyuubi was changed and weakened into something else. Me? Naruto concluded, and the boy's hand shook before he felt Anko's hand on his shoulder. They're ignorant idiots, Gaki, Anko began. Believe me when I say I know how you feel. To protect you and to ensure, or at the very least prevent as much as possible, that the next generation wasn't influenced by those aware of what happened that night, I passed a law. It worked for the most part. The boy merely nodded before a thought occurred. Gigi, you said the Kyuubi was the greatest of the nine-tailed beasts. Does that mean there are others? Unfortunately, yes. Each of the great 5 villages in Tekigakure no Sato has a Biju or 2 of their own, all of which are either hidden or sealed inside another person called Jinchuriki. Konoha itself didn't have one, as the Kyuubi remained elusive and stayed away from other settlements. Why it suddenly attacked, we still have no idea. Hiruzen lied once more. Only this time he did it to both ninja before him. Is there anything else you'd like to ask? When Naruto said nothing, Hiruzen nodded. Very well. Now back to the topic at hand. Naruto took a brief, and by the time he was done explaining, Hiruzen was left speechless. The fact that Naruto, son of the Yondaime and the last Uzumaki, and Jinchuriki of the most powerful of the 9 awakened such an ability was pretty difficult to process. Even more difficult was seeing the proof laid bare before him. The elderly Hokage would never forget the feel of the pop-up window, as it was called, nor him trying to dispel it with a Genjutsu Kai, illusionary technique release, soon after. When Naruto offered to take him into a dungeon, the man declined. Hiruzen believed him, but not only was there only so much he could handle at the moment, but the sudden disappearance of the Hokage wouldn't do either Naruto or Anko any favors. In the end, Hiruzen had what he needed, but advised caution to both of them. For all intended purposes, this was a bloodline of unimaginable potential and benefits. If word got out, it wouldn't be pleasant. Wars were started for lesser reasons. Naruto and Anko reassured the veteran ninja and village leader they'd be discreet, and both were dismissed soon after. But there remained another matter that needed to be addressed: who tried to frame Uzumaki Naruto. But while Hiruzen was contemplating that, I'll become Hokage even if I don't become a ninja. Naruto's cheeks burned with embarrassment. Anko merely grinned, kinda contradictory. Don't you think? It sounded good in my head, all right. In all honesty, Naruto pulled that one out of his ass. Should have kept it in there. Anko's laugh only embarrassed him some more. Come on. Let's go get Hato. We'll wait a bit before leaving. Naruto's apartment sometime later. As the news had begun to circulate of Naruto's innocence, Anko did not need to look to know many had lingering doubts. Even with his name cleared from stealing the scroll of seals, others would potentially look for an excuse or feign ignorance to the order. It was an old tactic many ninja used today. The woman took it upon herself to see her ward and his ninkin get home safely. He was strong for a newly promoted genin, and she had not doubt he'd be capable of taking down certain chunin if given the chance, maybe even catch the odd jonin off guard. But Naruto wasn't all-powerful, and lacked real combat experience against other shinobi. Monsters were one thing. They were limited in what they could do, but people were another. Hayat, Anko, and Yugao didn't count, as they were pulling back by a considerable amount. The first thing both did upon entering the building and his place of residence was checking around for anything out of place. Fortunately, nothing was found out of the ordinary. At least, not with the actual apartment. What is it, Gaki? Anko did spot a fleeting look the boy's face. The boy remained silent. All right. Anko shrugged and made for the door. You said you knew how I felt, he began, and Anko closed her eyes. What did you mean? Now it was Anko's turn to stay silent. The woman contemplated whether or not she should tell him the truth. It's okay. Forget I asked, Naruto said, but was stopped by his mentor. No, you've earned my trust, Gaki, and that ain't something I give lightly. The woman gave him a look, and the message was crystal clear. Betray her trust, and he'd live to regret it. But I suppose you've earned the right to know. Arf! Hadamaru barked. You too, Puchigaki, the little ninkin puffed out. Congratulations! You've completed the quest, trust-earned quest. Anko and the challenge. I really like you. You have also unlocked the challenges. That's what friends are for, and that cherished someone. Special note: individuals already at the required reputation level prior to this announcement do not count. Total rewards earned: 13,015%, PUA 14,950, Exp. 2, Attribute Points, Character, Yanko. History revealed: unique quests with Lanko unlocked and reputation level can now go beyond. Friendly. That's what friends are for. Challenge: increase your reputation level with 5 individuals to a friendly. Challenge reward: 12,000 XP, 1.
That cherished someone.
Challenge: increase your reputation level with 1 individual to a cherished. Challenge: reward: 9,000 XP, 3 AP. Anko leaned back on a wall before she began her tale. Well, to start, we have to go back years ago. Like you, I'm an orphan. I never knew my parents, and I doubt I ever will, but I've made peace with it. Despite it all, I was talented compared to others 3 years older than me. And was I taken under an apprenticeship by Orochimaru of the Sannin? Here Anko adopted a look of fury and anger, the likes of which neither Naruto or Hadamaru had ever seen. The woman was also subconsciously leaking a small but potent amount of killing intent as well. Seeing their looks, Anko eased up a bit on the scowl and reined in her anger as best she could. Anyway, as you can imagine, being taken under the wing of one of the legendary 3 ninja came as a surprise. Orochimaru of the Sannin was one of the most powerful ninja of his time, and for him to take an orphan as an apprentice was like a dream come true for anyone. He taught me everything I knew. Hell, he even let me sign the summoning contract for one of the most powerful and famous summons known. I saw the man as a father I never had. And the bastard fucking used and threw me away like yesterday's trash. The moment she yelled did Anko's anger come back full force, and the woman lashed out. The action left a sizable hole in the wall as her fist made impact. Hadamaru and Naruto both ducked for cover as the woman vented her frustration. It was evident the woman felt strongly about her former master. But that's not the worst of it, she muttered. The worst part is that I helped him despite the village suspecting him of doing horrible deeds. I thought they were idiots and jealous of him. I thought they betrayed him when they chose the Namikaze Minato as the Yondaime over him. I was devoted to the man, and he exploited my loyalty. Here the woman moved away, her hair and neck, to show Naruto her mark. See this? This is his mark. A cursed seal of incredible dark power, and out of the 10 that got it, I was the only one who survived. Even then, he tossed me aside. When I got back to the village, almost everyone saw me as a traitor and spy. Friends I had turned their backs on me, and others saw me as nothing more than trash. When I got older, several saw me as a whore or slut and made advances on me, willingly or not. Sure, I don't help my case dressing like this, but I like the way I look, so they can go fuck themselves. Anko stopped as she realized she was getting off key. Anyhow, to make matters worse, this cursed seal I have somehow hampers my skills. A little safeguard the bastard put in for kicks, or on the off chance I turned on him? I became a chunin at age 12. That's pretty young. I could learn and perform techniques a hell of a lot faster than most. All that went away the moment this number was bitten on me. The only way I'd get access to my former power, and then some, is if I used the damn thing, she said, chuckled darkly at the irony of it all. Ever thought of using it? Naruto asked. That would be unwise, Naruto-san, Midori butted in. Orochimaru of the Sannin has made many cursed seals, and the cursed seal of heaven was said to have been Orochimaru's most powerful one at the time. But back then it was incomplete, and by now it has most likely been improved upon knowing him. Anko-chan only ever used it once, unwillingly at that, and it gave her incredible power greater than most shonen. But it comes at a price. The power is like a drug, addictive and unforgiving. It is in the seal's nature to promise power at the cost of the user's sanity, and will until they become unrecognizable. She became a berserker during her fight, and could not differentiate between friend or foe. It was the first and only time she used it. Through her willpower and the aid of another sealing technique, Anko suppressed the cursed seal's influence, and over time it receded. The dark power is still there, but Anko no longer hears the whispers and promises of power like she used to. I'm guessing removing it is a no. Believe me, I have tried everything to get rid of this thing, but Jiraiya of the Sannin, Orochimaru's former teammate and our only resident Fuinjutsu master, said that getting rid of something as complex as this was beyond even him. The only person who probably had a chance to remove it was the man's student, the Yondaime. But even he doubted Namikaze Minato could have succeeded. With little info on this seal, the old perv concluded that there are only 3 potential ways to remove it. One being I die, and fuck that. The other is Orochimaru himself removing the damn thing. Good luck getting that done. And finally, the prick dies, since cursed seals are usually tied to their creator. But even that has no guarantee of success. Even then, both latter methods were not easily accomplished. Orochimaru was not only a sadist, but easily one of the most powerful cage-level nuke nin in the lands. I myself tried to get the seal removed from her by threatening to cancel our contract with the monster. Being a descendant of Hakuja-sama and one of the more powerful summons of the clan, I was one of the prime candidates to lead the clan when the previous clan leader passed away. Unfortunately, another and much stronger serpent by the name of Manda was also a prime candidate and had more favor in the clan. Part of his strength was thanks to his own skill, but many suspected it had also been enhanced by Orochimaru as well. No one dared to voice it though, as Manda could easily crush them. Midori told her part of the story. In the end we fought, and I lost. However, I was loyal to Anko and not Orochimaru, and because of my refusal to follow Manda, loyally I was banished and had my power sealed. I can only momentarily regain my full strength after I did some tinkering. To add insult to injury, Anko has since lost the ability to summon the more powerful serpents of my clan, and can only summon the smaller common fodder variants. Midori scowled. And that's our story, Gaki, Anko informed her future genin. Got anything to add or say? Yeah. Orochimaru and Manda are assholes. Naruto's response made both Anko and Midori blink before they burst out laughing. Oh man, I wasn't expecting that. Anko wiped away a tear. You really do have balls of solid steel, Gaki. But make no mistake, assholes they are, but those two are strong as hell. The man was a candidate for the position of Yondaime Hokage for a reason. Had Minato-sama not done the deeds he did during the war, or Hataka Sakumo, not taken his own life, Orochimaru would have been a shoo-in for the position. She gave the boy an all-knowing look. Naruto paled slightly. She did mention that a little earlier. Truthfully, the boy had intended to deliver some payback if he saw the man. A fact he didn't doubt crossed through Anko's mind. However, hearing that he was a former candidate for Hokage pushed those thoughts aside. The blonde ninja wasn't the smartest individual in the world, but even he knew that Hokage candidates were incredibly powerful. Ninja. Naruto was humble enough to know that despite his increase in strength, he was nowhere near that level of prowess. Aside from the Sandaime, Naruto never encountered a cage-level individual, but the boy didn't doubt that people in that power range were possibly in the low hundreds at worst, or even higher, and it would take him some time before he reached that level.
Listen, Gaki, if we ever come across the bastard, run as fast as you can and use every trick in the book you have to get away and pray that it works. If there was one weakness she knew about the man, it's that he loved toying with those weaker than him. At times he'd let his victims go as a form of mental torture, while other times he'd get bored and simply end the whole thing.
Ditto. Now it was Naruto's turn to give her a knowing look. Whether or not she chose to acknowledge it was unknown. Bidding him a good night, Anko left the apartment and Naruto and Horomaru prepared themselves for bed. The next day, the sound of a hammer striking metal was heard as Naruto and Horomaru entered Tetsumaru's store. Both felt the increase in temperature reach them and assumed the forge was going very strong at the moment. Keep hammering! That order has got to be ready by tomorrow. The boy heard Tetsu yell as he appeared at the counter. Sorry about that, kid. Backed up like crazy at the moment with orders. What can I do for you? Is my order ready? Naruto asked the muscle-bound man. It's done. Orders like that don't take very long, but your other order's gonna take a few extra days before they're finished. Would have been less, but the sudden influx of work I got pushed the due date back. Sorry, kid, the man apologized as he handed the boy his Hapuri Hitaiate. Hapuri style, Konoha Hitaiate, common quality. Item type, head armor. Durability, 55. Modified metal Hapuri-shaped headband engraved with the kanji for fire, symbolizing the wearer's status as a Konoha shinobi. Its modified look offers it greater defense and durability. Forehead protectors are worn by shinobi and are engraved with the symbol of their hidden village to demonstrate their allegiance. Be forewarned, wearing this makes you stand out against enemies of Konoha. Bonus. Perks. 3% power increase towards ADPICDA. Taijutsu skills, 10 DF, 10% additional rep per successful mission with Konoha. Must be loyal. Flaws. Will cause aggro effect if spotted by enemies of Konoha. Naruto smiled as he put the Hapuri Hitaiate on his face. Though slightly disappointed that he wouldn't be able to get his other order, the boy was happy he managed to get his forehead protector. the headband being mandatory for the registration photo he had to take, as otherwise he'd have to wear a spare one. With his task semi-complete, Naruto made his way towards the Hawkage building to take his photo. When is it gonna start already? Naruto whined as he and others waited for Iruka. The past few hours had been interesting to say the least. Having met and unwillingly gained a subordinate in Saratobobi Konohamaru, Gigi's biological grandson. But the kid was weird. What kind of person decides they want to become your underling after you hit them on the head? Personally, Naruto thought the old man's grandson had a few screws loose, but either way he had gained an underling, and managed to mess with that closet pervert of a teacher. Ibisu. The kid was a decent person, he guessed, and it could have been worse. Ibisu, however, had a 10-foot stick up his ass. That had been the most eventful part of the morning. Now he was stuck waiting in class as though he were an academy student. Again. Unfortunately, waiting had never been one of Naruto's fortes despite patience being pounded into his head by his teachers. The blonde-haired ninja considered what was currently happening, or lack thereof, a waste of time. Wonder who I'm being teamed up with, he idly wondered. The boy's face took a sour turn as he didn't see Hibachi or his friends. Hibachi, he knew, had failed, but some of the others had passed the graduation exam. Before he could begin looking around some more, the blonde and the rest of the class saw the classroom door open. Greetings, everyone. Iruka began quieting the room down. As some of you might have noticed, we are missing a few students today. Normally, I wouldn't be saying this on such a joyous occasion, but it's best you know of it now. As you all know, last night someone tried to frame Uzumaki Naruto for stealing the Scroll of Seals and likely the murder of several of our ninja forces. As you can see, Naruto was able to prove his innocence. Unfortunately, from a recent biopsy, we've just learned that one of the unidentified victims was Hibachi. The reactions were various. Some were stunned silent, others gasped, and some looked ready to cry. Naruto honestly didn't know how to react given his relationship with Hibachi. While he didn't wish the boy dead, Hibachi had done enough to him to justify some ill will. To learn of his death was something Naruto couldn't properly express into words. Vigilance, Iruka announced, and all eyes were on him. Vigilance is what makes a shinobi. To be aware of the dangers and potential dangers that may occur. Without it, a shinobi is nothing more than an ordinary individual or dead. I implore each and every one of you to be vigilant. I don't wish to hear that another one of my students is dead for lack of foresight. Now, before we begin, I'd like us all to bow our heads in silence for Hibachi. As the man began, Naruto silently gauged everyone in the room. The reactions had since shifted to many looking as pale as snow, frightened and ready to piss themselves, and others were more worried. Naruto saw that those from purely civilian backgrounds were taking it harder, while those from a clan or with shinobi family members took it better. But from those he could see, the worry and unease was still there. All right, let's begin. Iruka ended the minute of silence as she began listing off the teams. A couple minutes had passed before the man finally announced a name he knew. Team 7 will consist of Uchiha Sasuke, Inuzuka Kiba, and Haruno Sakura. Naruto heard Kiba groan and the thud as his head made contact with the desk. Sakura, as expected, cheered and announced, "True love conquers all," much to the displeasure of Ino and the other fangirls. All three of you will be taught by Hatake Kakashi. Naruto's face furrowed slightly as he recalled the name Hatake. Can he be related to that Tsukumo guy Anko mentioned? Team 8 will consist of Yamanka Ino, Hyuga Hinata, and Uzumaki Naruto. Your sensei will be Mitarashi Anko. Iruka wished the former two good luck while Ino groaned upon hearing the names of her teammates. The blonde girl had nothing against Hinata as she wasn't interested in Sasuke, but the Yamanaka heiress was hoping to be on a team with Sasuke. Sure, Naruto had gotten better, and he developed an adequate sense of fashion, and he wasn't dead last, but he could still be an idiot at times. Part of her was also surprised she hadn't been placed with Chuji and Shikamaru, considering their family history and how much their fathers pushed them to socialize. Well, childhood friends or not, at least she'd not have to constantly deal with the laziness. Hinata, on the other hand, had a different reaction. "I'm on Naruto-kun's team." The thought of it made her face go supernova as she finally processing those words. The indigo-haired Hyuga nearly fainted had she not willed herself not to. Even then, it was pretty close. "Hato," Naruto began, "I don't know if I should be happy or scared." On one hand, he had Anko as a teacher, and 2 teammates he could get along fine with over time, which was awesome. The only problem was if he excluded Hato, then it meant he was outnumbered 3-to-1 on the female-to-male ration. This is either really good or really bad. To some, being a part of a team of 1 male and 3 females was a dream come true. Naruto knew it for what it was. His opinion wouldn't matter if all 3 girls banded together. "Hey, what the hell? Iruka-sensei!" Kiba shouted and ignored the man's chastising. "Why's the dobe on a team with chicks and I'm not?" Naruto made a mental note to prank the Inuzuka's ass at an appropriate time for that comment. Ino scowled at him for being referred as a chick. The teams are assigned based on balancing of strength and critical thinking, Kiba. For instance, it is common practice for the dead last and the rookie of the year to be placed on the same team. The man sent the boy a look, and the majority of the class laughed as they realized what he was implying. Moving on, Team 9 is still in circulation from last year, so Team 10 will consist of Shikamaru Nara, Akimichi Chuji, and Abiram Shino under Sarutobi Azuma. And with that, the man finished announcing the teams. "I wish you all luck with your future teams, and as ninja. Your instructors will be here after lunch." Crash! Iruka and the class had little time to react as a window suddenly shattered in a shower of broken glass and wooden frame bits. The Chunin suddenly appeared battle-ready, drawing out a kunai and prepared for what was to come. However, the instructor nearly face-faulted as a banner began to unfold, and out popped the vivacious Mitarashi Anko. "Hello, everybody! The incredibly hot and sexy Mitarashi Anko has arrived." Anko cheered as she took a bow in front of the stunned class. Of course, Naruto and Hadamaru groaned at Anko's antics. However, the blonde shinobi silently admitted that the entrance was kinda badass, and made a note to ask for some pointers. "Team 8, you guys have 10 minutes to get your cute little asses to training area 9. Team 7, you guys take an extra long lunch. Trust me, you're gonna be here a while. Laters!" the woman announced, and then disappeared into a puff of white as she left behind a flabbergasted classroom. Okay, I thought she was nuts when I saw her crash the tourney a few months ago. But she's like a female version of Naruto. Ino voiced her opinion, and many couldn't help but agree. "Hey, I'm not that bad." All the boy got was silence and blank stares. "Besides, you better get used to it since we're on the same team." Ino groaned as she felt a headache coming on. Oh, and what happened is pretty tame compared to what she usually does. Naruto shuddered as he and his partner made their way out of the classroom. Hinata followed after her crush and teammate. Ino, however, simply groaned even more. "Forget the headache, I'm gonna be having a fucking migraine during this ordeal." The blonde Yamanaka wept and had no idea how much her world was about to be flipped upside down. Neither did her other female teammate, Wen-chi. Naruto, Hadamaru, Ino, and Hinata, recently dubbed members of Team 8, made their way towards the training grounds at varying speeds. Naruto and his Ninken partner were making record time and would easily be the first 2 there. Hinata wasn't too far behind the 2 males and moved at a decent pace. Ino was last, as despite her decent speed, she was lacking in stamina compared to her teammate. All 4 of them arrived at the training ground with a decent amount of time to spare. But none of them spotted their new Jonin instructor, she said, to get here in 10 minutes. And she's not even here. Ino frowned at the hypocrisy of it. Some sensei she is. "Ano, Ino-chan, you shouldn't talk about Anko's sensei like that," the young girl stuttered. Hinata's right, Naruto's agreement made Hinata blush. Anko may be nuttier than a bat out of hell, but being lazy is something she ain't. Hell, I was honestly way. Naruto stopped as his senses flared thanks to his detection skills. Oh shit! Duck and cover! The boy suddenly yelled, taking cover behind a tree alongside his ninkin. Ino and Hinata were still surprised by the sudden outburst and had little time to react before a hail of kunai and shuriken made their way towards them. Both newly graduated female genin dodged and swerved out of the deadly projectiles' incoming path as best as they could. Hinata, with her clan's training and greater perception, managed to dodge most of the airborne weapons with relative ease, though the Hyuga felt her clothes being cut in a few places as well. Ino, while not coming from a taijutsu-oriented clan, had natural grace and reflexes that most girls in the academy sorely lacked. The Yamanaka heiress bopped, weaved, and even back-flipped under the kunai and shuriken thrown at her. The way she moved made it look almost like a dance. Despite this advantage, the brief breather was not enough, and as such her reaction time was off a few times. Ino felt her clothes and hair being cut as a result. The flurry of weapons continued for a little over a minute, before it finally ended. When it did, both Ino and Hinata stood battle-ready with a few cuts, but no worse for wear. Not bad, not great, but not bad. Anko suddenly appeared between the two female genin and both visibly relaxed, which proved to be a big mistake. Ino and Hinata immediately found themselves wrapped and bound by serpents of various sizes and colors. The two struggled and wiggled as best they could to escape from the confines of the coiling serpents, but had no such luck. Each struggling movement they performed actually only resulted in their bindings being tightened by Anko's minor familiars. Rule number 1. Girls. Ninja play dirty. Remember what I said, how ninja can easily stab you in the back if you let your guard down. Anko chastised before looking for her senior student. Gaki! Poochie Gaki! You pussies, get out here, she ordered. Hell no, was the reply. I'm not falling for that trick. Again went unsaid. Arf, agreed wholeheartedly. Damn, I scared those two too well, Anko cursed. Don't you mean taught? Ino asked. I know what I said, Blondie. Ino's eye twitched at the nickname. Oh, Anko was gonna have fun breaking and remolding her. However, the Jonin realized she wouldn't be able to have more fun at the moment and sighed before she released Ino and Hinata. Upon seeing this, Naruto and Horomaru finally made themselves known, but it was evident by their body language that they were keeping their guard up. It was a wise and scare-fueled decision, really. Anyway, not bad kiddos, however, you three still have a way to go. You two especially, her last comment directed at the two kunoichi. Now, normally, we start off by introducing ourselves, saying what we like, blah, 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 blah. Well, we're not going to be doing that, so I'll cut right down to the chase. Name's Anko, and I'm going to push ya, I'm going to break ya, and I'm going to make you puke your guts out and frap your body till your bones hurt. When you squeal, I'm just going to go faster and harder, till finally you're molded into proper kick-ass ninja. The kid gloves are off, and I'm gonna bitch slap you with them. Her grin sent shivers down each and every one of their backs. Because of their time with the woman, both Naruto and Hata were used to it, but even then the act made them cringe and flinch back with fear. Ino and Hinata, however, paled considerably to an unknown degree. The two had seen a side of the woman months ago and thought she was strict. Both just now realized that it was only a part of her personality. Well, assuming you pass the test, of course. She shrugged, much to their confusion. Huh? All three genin wondered what she was talking about. Oh, didn't I say? Her tone resonating with sweet and fake innocence. The academy exam was only to help determine who had the potential to become genin and weed out the rest. In order for you to become true genin, you all need to pass your teacher's test. And 5 out of all the academy graduates, only 33% of them have a chance of passing that test. What happens if we fail? Ino asked. Pretty short answer. You lose your headband and go back to the academy. Technically it was untrue, but Anko wanted them to be fearful. She needed them to give more than 100% effort to accomplish their task. Telling them the truth would have done the opposite. Technically, there were several options that could happen if they failed. The most common occurrence being they went back to the academy as was mentioned. The other was if a Jinin's skills were good enough, they might get taken on as someone's apprentice, but that was rare and only if they were lucky enough. And lastly, the team was split up, but if some had enough of the right skill and mindset, they were put in the reserves until a spot became available. At which time all they'd be able to do is supervised D-rank missions for the next several months or so. Oh fuck me, Naruto cursed at the unfairness of it all. All that hard work, and there was a chance that he'd have to wait a while longer. Naruto wasn't stupid to not believe Anko held back from time to time. Yes, this is the reason why. Why train an academy student on everything they knew, and then get their hopes when there was such a large chance of them failing in the end?